Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. Welcome back, everybody. It's Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Brian Michael Bendis here. Sorry for the slowness. My laptop decided to screw up, of course, right before the broadcast. So I had
Your laptop said, "How many shows can you possibly record in one day? I need to sleep. Please, God in heaven, give me a break."
In the next 24 hours, I will have done 4 podcasts.
I was going to ask you if it sometimes feels like I hop on Twitter and it seems like you did 3 shows today. That's amazing.
It's true. It is true. And yeah,
God
what
bless,
are you gonna
man.
do?
Fantastic.
Well, you know, I'm like a fisherman. I cast my nets, and sometimes it's like everyone's too busy. Oh shit, all right, fine, no problem. Or yes, let's do it all at the same time. And I'm like, all right, it's cool.
I know I fall into the second category, both categories, but second category often. I know I come up for air when you.
Well, first of all, you know I'm a night owl, so this is no problem. I'm very happy, and we've got already a ton of questions. But I do want to hit Naomi first because you know, yeah, I mean, watch the premiere, and it was great. And congratulations, man! This is another, like Miles Morales, another character that transitions to the big platforms.
It's crazy, and just so people are, I like to just state this for clarity, because sometimes it is unclear to people who just like coming through. There are some shows and movies like we're involved in, and other shows where we just lay the tracks and sit back and see what happens. And in this one, absolutely had nothing to do with the production of the show, other than giving whatever advice they wanted when I could. And I just get to sit back and bathe in Ava's glorious light, and with David, and just sit with my friend and enjoy it. And and it's a great feeling. I've had this feeling before with Spider-Verse, that continues. And once you experience something that beautiful, you're like, well, that was my turn. I'm not going to get another one. That was my turn. And then, so yeah, it happening again is really, really beautiful. It really is. And it's magical. And I highly recommend it for anybody. Make stuff with your friends, because when shit pays off, that's the best part, that you get to be with your friend and share it, you know, and for me, I know some people are wired differently. I don't seem to like take it in for myself, but I can really experience it with somebody else. Like I think I described this on Word Balloon. Like I processed nothing that happened with Spider-Verse, but 3 months later, when almost the exact same thing happened with Captain Marvel and Kelly, I could completely enjoy it. Like I really was so enjoying watching Kelly go through it, and so it's a unique psychological thing I have, and so yeah, and it happened again tonight, and I was just like, you know, so happy for my pals.
That's
also
funny
the other cool thing is the thing you don't think about when you're doing stuff like this. Like, of course, you're like, man, I hope they make a movie. I hope they make a TV show. Like, that would be cool, right? That's what you think. But the reality is, if they do, hundreds of people get jobs. So you create something, and then all these other artists and writers and actors, all these other talents get to express themselves from a base that you lay the base, and then everyone gets to play. And that's an amazing feeling. Like, and then you just get like updates from Atlanta, and then you hear like I heard particularly behind the scenes that this was a very good set. Like people were really enjoying themselves. Yeah, as we know from the history of cinema, some sets are fun and some sets are not. And so, but you want them to be a fun set. You want people to have walked away with a good life experience. And even though I have no control over it, whether it is or isn't, you would hear, if you had a choice, that the thing you laid the base made a nice it was a nice experience for everybody who got a ticket. And so that part was the surprise present of all of this, how good that feels. And the extra bonus is that on Spider-Verse, both on the last movie and on this movie, the production kept hiring people that I know, that I'm friends with. Not that they know me, not because they know me, because they're just fucking Sanford Green, and you know, you hire them, right? And Chris Anka, like people I really like and have worked with, kept getting hired for these productions, and Bill Sienkiewicz. And I'm like, yes, I get so excited, you know, that what a gift. So that's how I'm feeling right now at the moment.
That's awesome. Stephen Friedrich kind of builds on that with his comment. I've always gotten a sense your friend's success is even more important to you than your own. How excited are you for Jinxworld, like David Mack and then David Walker, to have their own experiences seeing live creations?
Well, and number also, and okay, when I was much younger, I've discussed this on this podcast. When I was a younger man, I had jealousy. I like a lot of people, David Mack would pick me up in the car, and we would drive to Detroit Comic-Con, and I would sit in the car and just bitch about Mike Allred the whole time. Why? Because he was more talented than me. He had his shit together. He knew how to do merch. I knew nothing. So instead of figuring it out, I would just go, fucking Mike Allred, blah, 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 blah. And of course, he's like my favorite artist, right? So, I've told like years later, not even too many years later, you know, I'm working at Marvel. First person I call when they give me a golden ticket was Mike Allred. Like, I want to see Mike Allred comics. And then I said to Mike, I must confess to you, you were the focal point of my career rage. Like I, you know, everybody has it. Like I want what I want and I don't have it. And so I would focus on him. And then I explained it, and how it was not really him and it was really me and blah, blah, blah. And he just stared at me like I was insane. And he was right, because I should not have said any words I was saying. But I was trying to confess that I had matured in real time. Like I had felt it. So now here I am, older, and having had certain experiences. And as soon as they happen, I immediately go, oh, I want other people to feel this. This is different than I thought it was. It's better in some ways. It's as I've just described, like there's elements to this I didn't see coming. I would like anyone who's in this position to feel this. Like this is really magical. And so that's when I go, yeah, I as soon as like Echo became a thing, in the Marvel universe, I was so excited because I David deserves to feel what that feels like, to see your stuff in the mix in the Marvel stew. And so yeah, sometimes when I'm accidentally bragging, what I'm trying to do is not brag, because I don't care about that. I'm trying to say, oh, you should go make some comics. You should do this, because there's something really cool at the end of this that wasn't here before. Yeah, and also I'm aware that in my generation, this is all new for it. This is still like the generation before me didn't always get to live long enough to see their stuff happen, or the generation before, right?
Yeah.
Like, we created Naomi 2 years ago. Naomi's still fresh on my mind. Like, Miles is like almost feels like a different chapter in my life, but I'm still in this chapter. So that's a unique feeling too. I'm so glad I got to have both of them.
I totally understand.
Yeah. So I appreciate that you feel that off of me, because I do. Yeah. And also it's crazy that so many. I'm sorry, John. But it's crazy that so many people in my circle are getting this experience and around the same time. Like Matt getting Hawkeye, and Kelly getting Captain Marvel, and some other stuff that's going on. And David Walker has a lot of stuff going on with the hate and all. It's all happening, and we were all working together towards the same goal. And it's not all set in stone that everyone's going to get something for it. And then everybody did. And that's kind of amazing. And it's not unlike what happened like at Caliber Comics, where everyone was hustling to break in, and everybody did. Like, everybody broke in. Like, that's why I was sitting there while I was working on Justice League with Phil Hester, is how, like, we were at Caliber together, right? Hoping no one kicked us out. And then here we are decades later, just having a ball. And I'm like, I remember having that feeling that everyone at Caliber got their wish. What are the odds of that? And then it feels like it happens a little now, and it's not forever. It'll be,
of course,
it's show business, it comes and goes, but it's lovely that we all get to share and support each other in success and in not success, and in the frustrations that come with success that none of you want to hear about. The high class problems. Yeah. And they are.
I have no doubt. Absolutely.
Okay, sorry for that long answer on that. It's just, it's
Brian,
so weird.
I'm here every day. You're the guest. And seriously, no, I don't want to, honestly, and people want to hear what you think.
I'm just filling minutes for you. Just keep going.
Exactly. Okay. You can, if you want. There's always more. I was going to ask, when you had your meetings with Ava, what did she convey about Naomi that she liked? Or, tell me about the meeting with David.
Well, yeah, it was early days pandemic, and we all got on Zoom, and Jim had told me early on something was cooking. Like, Ava had read Naomi and she really liked it, and they think it's going to go.
Which Jim is that?
Jim Lee. I'm sorry, Jim Lee from DC Comics. Legendary.
Well, that's why I didn't know if it was the CW Jim or if it was Jim Lee. Go on.
Well, so when I first came to DC, part of it was, hey, let's meet everybody at Warner Brothers, blah, 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 blah. And Warner Brothers has been in flux almost the entire time I've been over there, and some of it very publicly. So it's not gossip in any way. None of my bosses are my bosses that I started with just a couple years ago. But it was nice to hear from Dan DiDio today about it. He was a big fan of Naomi and was really excited. So that was super sweet.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it warmed my heart. And so we were showing them everything we were doing at Wonder Comics, and we got a very big response from them. And then, things kind of just, went the way they go sometimes in Hollywood, where you have a great meeting and then just nothing comes of it. Or you have a shit meeting and all of a sudden you have a deal. It's the weirdest scenario. You've seen a lot of it online. You can, some of you have a sense of it, but it really is like that. And then I had this great meeting with everybody about Wonder Comics, and then it just nothing happened. And then all of a sudden there's a call. Ava is interested and they think it's going to happen. And that's always a weird, like you great. I would love that. Sounds amazing on like 8 different levels. That's the perfect person. It almost sounds too good to be true, to be honest with you. That's and then like a week later, like, would you like to get on? And you remember early pandemic, I was having some highs. I was at a high, I know everybody was, but I was in an elevated state that I wasn't fully aware of. So all my Zoom calls were shit. And I knew enough not to go on this show. Remember, like, UK, hey, let's go on there. I go, I am not podcast ready. I had a couple of Zoom meetings that were just disasters. I should just not have had them. I should have, trying to power through when there was no need to. But this one was a much cooler call. I also, like, Ava had already worked with a couple of friends of mine in other areas, so I'd already heard about her, and I was really into what was going on in her world. Like, I was already pre-sold, like,
Sure.
And
well, we were all excited, if I may, real fast, about her involvement with New Gods, and when that dried up, we're all like, "Oh no," because this was going to be great, and that's why it was exciting to hear that she was interested in this. But please continue.
Yeah, and again, just like New Gods went away, this could have gone away. You have to get very zen about it, and at the same time, work really hard to try to make it happen. Put a lot of good energy towards it. Try your hardest. But when things go away, they're very rarely because of anything you can do to stop. It's not under my control. So we got on the Zoom with Jim and Ava and a few members of the team, and we talked it through. And I described at length. And other creative people always kind of get the sense when they're reading something, you can see, oh, this came from somewhere in the darkness. Like this isn't just a comic book. You were really somewhere. And I described, as when we discussed here on this very podcast, David and I first started cooking Naomi when I was in the hospital, because that was on the list of things I wanted to do when I get to DC, was create something with David Walker. And it was on it. We were teaching together already, David and I, and part of our teaching comics writing at Portland State was we would talk about the hero's journey and in philosophical terms. And we talked back and forth across the class every semester about the hero's journey and applying it to modern sensibilities. And every time I'm talking about it, I go, why aren't you and I doing this right now? Instead of talking about it, I'm like, you keep saying it out loud, we should maybe do this. And then I was going to DC, and then I got sick, but we had already committed to doing it. And then we sat in the hospital and started cooking. And I'm sure David was just humoring his sick friend at the time. And then when we got out and miraculously everything was, back on track, we sat down to make Naomi. And, that first page of Naomi, where it's very subtly, but not too subtly, she's the only brown skinned person in Portland. That's David Walker's truth. That's David Walker. That's where we started with. It was the feeling that David had growing up here, when he did, and how it felt. And so we combined that with a lot of the adoption energy that was in my world because of my daughters. And as I've described here, Naomi is a brown skinned girl, and 2 of my daughters are brown skinned girls. But the Naomi's story and my daughter's story are not identical or in parallel. And my daughters know their story, and I even said to them, you get to take your story and do whatever you want with it. I'm not going to sell it to the CW behind your back. That's not what parents do. And but I said, but all the adopted families that we know, and all these parents that Daddy's friends with, and all these people that we know, have brought a lot of this into my life. And also when you think about like the history of superhero comics, there's a lot of orphans. It's a whole lot of orphans, but they don't really deal with the real some of the modern reality of adoption and blended families. So I wanted to bring that in and do that, and we did. Also, just hearing that, you know, some of this was deathbed creation, that's hard to say to someone, another creator, because you're like, don't fuck it up, and like this isn't, this, you know, it's only my dying wish, but it was nice that was her instinct, and then and she was right, and even describing that, like some of the stuff that Naomi's birth parents write to her was cribbed a little from notes I had to write to my kids when I wasn't sure which way it was going. So, I mean, that's how personal the work is. And so when you tell a bunch of people that are making a commercial entertainment for a network television show, that's you're asking a lot. And then they sent me the pilot, and I was immediately relieved. I'm like, oh, it's truthful and honest. And that's all you want. Just bring. And I know. So what happens is they take our truth and then they bring their truth, and that's what happened with Spider-Verse. It's like now it becomes part of hopefully it's a stew, and hopefully it's a truth stew and not a bullshit algorithm stew. You know, like what do the people want stew? You know, and that's, you end up with you know, Sonic the Hedgehog or something. But I wanted to make sure that everyone saw it as what it was, which is a vessel for us to really express some ideas, and they took it. They had it. It was great. It was such a relief, and it looks great. And the kid's a star. The kid just did.
She's amazing. She's great.
I've been in this casting process a couple of times, and it's been described to me that, you know, some certain people just walk in the room and they look like they've always been on television. Like there's something about them. You just go, oh, and they call it the Ted Danson. Like, you should be on TV, and you've got that TV light. There's something about your skin that, you know, and
photogenic, charisma. Yeah, absolutely. All that.
And she 100% had is amazing. So,
and that's
and again, this is her big break, and there she is on billboards, and she's having the best time of it, and it's just cool to be part of it. Have you had a chance to talk to her directly? No, we just social media. Yeah, let's okay. 16-year-old. What am I got to talk to a 16-year-old kid about? Ava's there. She's If I was needed, I was helpful. I did write a couple of the other actors, because, you know, like the girl playing Annabella, like, well, guess what? Annabella means a lot to us. It means as much to us, like the creators of the book, as Naomi does. Like when we create a series, Naomi, of course, is important, but we're really invested equally in all the other characters in the book. There's her parents, Jen and Greg, who we named after Jen and Greg Rucka, and I will say as a temp, because we wanted like their energy, like as their parental energy. So we were just, and me and David are really close, you know, with them. So we're like, and it stayed. And so that's funny. And but I forgot where I was going with this, but just the whole thing.
All the characters matter, and you were saying,
all the characters matter, and I'd seen how seriously a lot of the supporting cast had taken their roles. It happened also on the Miles Morales video game, by the way, where I saw that the actors were very invested in their character and saw the truth in it. And so I reached out and said, hey, just so you know, from the writer's point of view, they're all lead characters, and we're thrilled with what you did. Like, they're just thrilled beyond. Yeah, really, really happy about it, because it's not just Naomi, it's the dynamic around her, it's her relationship with her parents, it's her relationship to the town. Yeah. And now there's a fake Portland in the DC universe forever and ever.
Yeah, and it is great to go to other cities and explore them. And I think I love Metropolis, I love Gotham, but let's not forget, it's nice to build on what's already there. Yeah, with that in mind.
Yeah.
Absolutely. With that in mind, and you mentioned obviously David's alienation, that he grew up with, as far as, not being white and being in Portland and stuff. Is that something that they're going to explore in the series? I mean, it's a very racially balanced television show. Is this an idea of Portland or?
Yeah, so here's where we are now. So now you've seen some of the pilots. So
Yeah.
this is I'm such a craft junkie, and I'm so into this, right? Like I've had the experience of like I did my thing and now they're doing their thing, right? And I can sit back and go, oh, let's see what you do with it, right? This one, we're still making this. We are actively, last night I finished with David an issue of Naomi, right? So we're creating a Naomi verse,
Yeah.
like as from the get go. So they're going to do their stuff. And they have a lot, and also television offers like all this opportunity for things that we didn't have the opportunity for, and we have opportunities for stuff they're not going to have opportunities for in our thing too. So I'm now completely enjoying on every level their path and our path.
Okay, so you are, even though you're listed as a producer and you're willing to give notes when asked, you're more of a spectator as well in terms of what they're doing.
Well, we're, David and I and Jamal, we continue to create content into the machine, and we're there for them. So yeah.
Okay.
But like I'm like actively producing other shows, like like Legion and Cover, and
Yeah.
I would know that if someone came around and came around and started taking credit for something they didn't do, I would be annoyed. So I like to make it very clear, Ava made this show, right? Like this is her show, and I celebrate that. This is,
All right, excellent. There we go. And Raising Culture, I believe that answers your questions about what DC wanted to do. Did they come to you and say create something? I mean, and also, oh, motherfucker!
What happened? Are you frozen? Something's frozen. Don't even know if we're broadcasting. Should I start singing? I will. I'll start singing at the drop of a hat. Okay, hold on. Okay. And I'm still on the air. So I feel I'm on the air. I wish there was some way for me to know. We're still here. Okay. Hi, everybody. All right. Well, I'll just answer questions. Let me look here. Okay. Oh yeah, that was a good question about did DC is this what DC wanted? So what happened was when I first started to meet with Dan DiDio about coming over, Dan one of the top things was Dan wanted me to create new characters. So my deal was to do that, to like throw some new toys in the toy box. And but I think you guys know that it doesn't mean that something was going to be as successful as Jessica or Miles Morales, but I was keen on the opportunity to try. So we threw all kinds of villains and heroes into the mix, and so glad that Naomi grabbed them so quickly. That was really nice, really nice actually. So. Are you going to do a new Legion of Superheroes #1? I would like to. I don't know yet. We're still working on the Justice League Legion of Superheroes series that just debuted today. We're not only talking about Naomi today, we're also here to celebrate that Justice League Legion of Superheroes #1 by Scott Godlewski and Ryan Cody came out today. And so we're gonna go through that, and we have a meeting I think this week actually to see what happens next. And but meanwhile, whether or not that happens, and I really don't know either way, but I would like to. I'm starting work on the TV show this week as well. So and that for me is a massive undertaking that I hustled really hard to get, and I'm excited to really see what we can do here. It seems that Legion is really it could really be a special show. It could really be something unique, and a lot of work and focus needs to go into that to make that happen. So that's what I'll be working on. And also, I just feel like Legion fans, those who care for my work and those who don't, I just feel an obligation to really deliver content. I know what that drought feels like, and I just I want to be able to deliver. So fingers crossed. All right. Other questions. Did 5G cancellation affect your checkmate ending? It did. It did. Oh, John on an iPad. Is this what we got?
Finish your
Okay.
thoughts.
All right. So the question was, did 5G cancellation affect my checkmate ending? It affected not the ending, but affected what would happen after the ending, if that makes sense. So checkmate would have, like, that ending that happened, that was the plan. And then the next chapter would have been the 5G, would have been the next step of Leviathan, the next step of checkmate. But it was I know Tinian's been talking a lot about 5G in his Substack, and it's been described that there were like pillars of content. Mine was the spies. I had all the checkmates and the Cadmuses and under that would have been a few titles, Green Arrow and such like that. But it was not meant to be. It was a good plan. There were parts of the plan that I thought were pretty keen, and parts of the plan that were maybe too big for its britches. But I've been in a lot of rooms like that where things are planned, and some of it always looked really cool, and some of it looked like, well, I like to see that work, and some of it did work. Some of it, sometimes you got to take the swing. So this swing would have been interesting to see what had happened if 5G would have happened.
Understood.
A lot of planning went into it, and again, not my planning. It was a lot of planning in the DC offices, but I saw a lot, and there was a lot of keen stuff that I would like to read.
Understood. For this temporary situation, I'm not.
That one we're looking at your ceiling.
Yeah, I'm not going to worry about my camera. You guys can all see my little speaker there in the ceiling.
Is that literally the best angle you can find for your iPad?
Well,
There's no better.
My I don't have a hard frame to hold up my iPad. It's just a flappy protective cover, and rather than fuck with that while my laptop is rebooting with updates,
okay.
Let me just be off camera, and I will.
Is it time for you to invest in yourself a little bit? Maybe time for a new lap. All right.
Well,
Mark. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, we can put up Mark McGrath. There you go.
Oh, okay. Are the Legion in the new show being developed the same Legion that are appearing in the current season of Young Justice? No, they are more based on what Ryan Shook and I developed as a modern Legion, but hopefully leaning more into the traditions of the classic at the same time. And I think you're getting a little taste of that in the Justice League miniseries, and let me know what you think of that. Okay.
There you go.
But the designs are all Ryan's that we're starting with. And again, animation needs different things than comics, and we'll be designing our own stuff as well. But we're starting there. All of the choices that Ryan made, and there were many of them, were meant to not be cinematic, but to definitely compete with some of the amazing sci-fi designs that have been going on all over the world and all over pop culture content. And so much of what made Legion cool has actually been pillaged over the years by other things that it was important to zero in and focus on what was special about it. So
very cool. Kit Kat Sneak Attack, so happy that the Legion is getting more love. And you obviously answered this question earlier that Ryan is involved with the designs.
No, well, Ryan already designed everything, and I used his design as the template. And if we get to go further along where we're doing visual work on top, if my script is well received and they start developing visually, Ryan's the first person that gets called. He's already been told.
Excellent. There you go.
Yeah.
Kevin wants to know, will you keep writing for Green Arrow and Black Canary? I like their back and forth dialogue in your Justice League comics.
Thank you. It was very fun to find them. I do like writing happy couples, and I love writing Black Canary. And I've been very flattered by the response to our Green Arrow. There's been a lot of Twitter asking me and Alex to just do a Green Arrow run. And I deeply appreciate that. And finding Black Canary and Hawk Girl's voices early in the Justice League run was a great deal of fun for me as well. And so I appreciate that. So we'll see. I don't know. I have a lot of projects on my plate for this year. So, and not a lot of it is monthly comics for the first time in a long, long time. So, but tomorrow that could change. So I don't know. But right now you've got a lot of cool stuff happening in Justice League Legion and in Naomi, and we'll see what happens next.
Excellent. Jace wants to know, was the jail versus Legion only 18 pages? If so, why such a short part of the story?
No, it wasn't. No, it was 22 pages.
One issue. Okay.
Yeah, so there's a whole. Yeah. I wrote 22. Most of the time, there are 24 pages. I creep over the page count and beg and whine to carry on. And just on Naomi, I stole the page from issue 3 to make issue 2 better. So I do that all the time. I'm always squeezing extra pages where I can.
Okay, Araco wants to know, will Legion be continuing as a miniseries?
I hope you weren't missing any pages. That's always one of my I used to have like a dream where my book, I would wake up and my book, like you get a box of books in the mail, like your comps, right? You open up the book and you see your cover of your book, and then you open up the book and it's an upside down issue of Cerebus. It's completely misprinted. Everything is wrong. It was an ongoing stress dream. I have so I hope that's not the case.
I always have dreams that I'm like in a great comic book store and I'm looking at some nondescript Silver Age book, and then when I wake up and I realize it was a dream, I'm so angry, because truly that is like one of my delights, is going to stores and like, oh my God, look, I've never seen this Nick Cardy cover before. Just shit like that. You know what I mean?
That's amazing. Of course. I love that shit.
Yeah, there you go.
Also, Jace, it just occurring to me. If you bought it digitally, the double page spreads are sometimes listed as one page, even though they're 2 pages.
That's what I was expecting. Truly, I meant to say that earlier. So I hear what you're saying. Rocco Braddock, is that a Captain Britain reference that I'm not aware of? Will Legion be continuing as a miniseries?
I answered earlier. We'll do this miniseries, and I'll talk to them this week, and we'll see what's next. I would like to. I offered that while I'm developing the animated show, I would like to continue the series. I think it would be good for everybody involved. It'd be good. Mark
does say digitally double page spreads only count as 1 page. Didn't know that.
Yeah.
There you go. And also, let's see. Oh, Matt wants to know, is Rogolzar's story done?
Yeah, I'm going to say, that's a character that belongs to DC, but I gave it a nice little bow at the end of our last Legion run. So I'm going to say he hung around for 1,000 years, got his ass kicked by the Legion, is a pretty good way to wrap up the story. But there's a whole 1,000 years of fun to be had there, and you never know. I'm always delighted when another writer picks up one of the characters and goes somewhere with it that I would not have thought of. I got to experience that so much with Jonathan Hickman, and so I leave it open.
Did you already answer Caesar of Rome's question about XS?
No, what was this?
Legion? Will XS appear in your Legion?
I don't want to ruin, because we're doing some genuine surprises. I think you'll be surprised by the deep dive coming.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad Scott couldn't be here tonight. He was both Scott and Stephen Byrne at one point were going to join us, but neither could. But both say hello, and I'll actually both say hello and say please say thank you to everybody. And yeah, and now that I got Scott's rhythm going on Legion, now's when I start torturing him. Here come the substitutes. Here come the So. Yeah.
Speaking of the substitutes, will you be using Polar Boy and Comet Queen from 'Tis the Season in your stories?
They're not in the story, but I'm so grateful that they are in the just released 'Tis the Season. So they are there for Polar Boy fans who are waiting.
I'm a Polar Boy fan. I'll admit it.
Oh, sure.
Absolutely, man. Monel is still my favorite Legionnaire.
No, but this is the curse of being a Legion writer. It's like being an X-Men writer. Like there's every character. Every character is somebody's favorite. Everyone.
I'm hip. No, I get it, man. And again, much like the. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, please.
I was going to say, much like the X-Men, there literally are like 100 Legion characters over the 70 years or whatever it's been, 60 years. So yeah,
and genuinely. No, there's other franchises. Like I was on Avengers. There are some Avengers that nobody's a fan of. I'm not going to say who they are, but nobody is a fan of. Right?
Come on,
no
D-Man. D-Man, you're the only one that was rooting for D-Man. I'm kidding.
I invested a lot of time in D-Man. Nobody gave
I know
a
you
shit.
did. It's hilarious.
But with X-Men and Legion, there is no corner that isn't someone's favorite, and I absolutely love that about it, and I embrace the responsibility. I love it.
Jay says another good question: are you reading anything right now, not from the big two, that you would suggest are must reads?
Oh, I got a good one, and I don't know if I have permission to talk about it. But and it's actually a sponsor of yours.
Oh, great!
I hope I don't get in trouble.
Are you talking about something that Abrams is going to release later this year? That's okay. That's public knowledge.
I know. It's. I don't know if I'm allowed to say I've read it. Okay. I know it's public knowledge. Well, listen. I'm about to sell the hell out of this thing. It can't be that mad. I read Alex Ross's Fantastic Four graphic novel from Abrams that's coming out. If those of you don't know, you can Google Alex Ross has a full graphic novel of the Fantastic Four coming out, not from Marvel.
Right.
I with that publisher as well, and they sent me a copy, and I read it, and I freaking loved it. I don't know.
That's great to hear.
See it, John. It is
not yet.
Well, he breaks all of his molds as Alex. He his new things on every page, and that's really effing exciting. I just loved it.
Well, his last sketchbook had a lot of conceptual art from the FF Abrams project, and Sal Abenati, his art rep, is a good friend of mine. And I'm sure Alex will be on to promote the Abrams book. And we're running an Alex Ross art commercial. I shouldn't have used the Shadow. I should have used the FF, where there's a lot of the art from the book. And it's
all right. Well, when I saw the commercial of the opening, it immediately reminded me of like, oh yeah, that was good. But I think it's available for pre-order, and I think it's a slam dunk pre-order. So
well, he was really excited to do it, and I know this really meant a lot to him. And of course, we all remember the great Superman FF crossover that he did years ago, and also just the stuff in Marvels. My God, that wedding shot of Mr. Fantastic and Sue is great, and everybody, all the different people he peppered in the audience that were in the original comic and stuff, and whatever licenses he did in Marvels to fill out the group and everything. But yeah, no, I mean, it's when Alex is excited about something. I mean, even when he's not, but I know he's really excited about this project.
No, but
so I think it's gonna be
Alex
great.
has one of the greatest voices in the history of all comics, like an undeniable voice up there with Kirby. So for him to attempt and without needing to, like, he could just be Alex Ross forever, and it's hard and it's amazing and no one else can do it, right? And then he went and went for it again. and that's really exciting. I love a lot of my heroes have done that, and it's really, really exciting when it happens. So he took a big swing, and it was cool to. I was delighted while I was reading it. I was just delighted.
That's cool. And Mark
So
McGrath wants to
I have
know,
other answers too, but that's a really good one.
I like it. Yeah, if you want to just
what's the furthest place from here by Matthew Rosenberg and Tyler Boss? I did a cover for them, but Matthew is killing it, and it just delights me to watch. And what was the other one? There was another one. Oh man, I know like everyone's saying it, but I'm really digging Tom Taylor's Nightwing and his other books as well. But me and my son read Nightwing together, and it's a delight. And even in class today, we had a very long conversation about the last issue that was all one panel, or the illusion of one panel. And if you haven't tried it, check it out.
Outstanding. Mark McGrath wanted to know, tell me more about your deep abiding love for Timberwolf. I'm kidding. I love Timberwolf.
I'm not. I love Timberwolf.
Timberwolf's awesome. What is your take on the character? Any big plans for him?
Well, see, I have almost a historical take on Timberwolf, because I was pre-internet very aware of Timberwolf being like this avatar of Wolverine. What came first, Wolverine or Timberwolf?
Yes, Dave Cockrum, right?
Right, and the Dave Cockrum connection. And I literally read like many think pieces on this in like the Buyer's Guide and Legion Outpost.
Sure.
And so I really came to this Timberwolf thinking about which like what energy I wanted to have. And I believe I started with Derek Robertson's Wolverine.
Sure.
If you remember, Derek Robertson did a very like some of us thought that's what Wolverine was supposed to be, like a hunched little Canadian,
Yeah.
And then he became damn handsome. He became a leading man.
That's what happens when Hugh Jackman decides to play him and not Danny DeVito.
But even before, even when like Paul Smith was drawing him and stuff, like he was getting more handsome. Like when he got married. I mean, but there was a time where he was like a little like almost like more animalistic. And when Derek Robertson did his run on it, I said let's do that one, and that's where it started from.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, here's Magic K wants to know: do you have any interest in doing a Green Lantern book?
Well, I'm doing I kind of am now. The Legion of Superhero Justice League story is called the Gold Lantern Saga. That's the storyline. So, and from page 1 today, you guys saw he's the lead. He's the inciting incident of the entire storyline. So what this really is the story of what the Green Lanterns become. Like what 1,000 years from now, what is the legacy of the Green Lantern Corps? Sure. And how does it apply today? So in my heart, it feels like it's like when you're working in the shared universe and these elements are always there, it feels like you're always working on it. And I know that's not the same as actually working on a Green Lantern book where that's the lead character. But literally since the minute I walked in the door, I started writing Hal in my second issue of Man of Steel, created a Teen Lantern, and been lanterning the whole way through. So it always feels that way to me. But yeah, so yes and no. But I would, but it would for Green Lantern. I thought about it, and a proper one was offered at one point, and that was when I really felt I needed to have like a unique take. Like something that I had not seen before. And also it felt like this is also material that's been very mined, very, very dug into. And unless I had a really unique take, let other people do it. Right. And my unique take was Teen Lantern and that side story. So
yeah. Gary wants to know, would love to see you do something with Paul Smith. maybe a
Oh
weekend
my
story?
God, would I've met Paul. I have expressed my genuine love for his work and what it meant to me, and tried. But yeah, sometimes you can hook him in, sometimes you can't. Got Mike Grell, so I never thought that would happen. So
That's
maybe one
awesome.
day, even like last night, he drew Bouncing Boy of all things, and I retweeted it and it made me go, I'd like to do I'd like to do some Legion with Paul Smith. Does he want to do Legion? Can I reel him in? Because a lot of times, the artists they throw their sketches online. They're saying a lot. I would like to do this. I would like to be known for this. And you're like, yeah, can I make that happen? Yeah, that'd be great.
Mario wants to know, did you like Hawkeye and Spider-Man No Way Home? He's right. I have not seen Spider-Man yet, so no spoilers, please. But
Well,
I'll
I haven't
certainly
seen. I
go ahead.
shockingly have not seen Spider-Man yet either.
There you go.
My family is not in a position to go to a movie theater.
Yeah.
We were even planning on renting a theater with some families, which you can do, by the way, and it's actually really not expensive.
That is a great idea, and I hope more local theaters are doing that across the country.
So
I think
they
that's
can
an excellent idea.
You have to buy 40 tickets, and the theater is yours.
That's
at least
awesome.
in Portland,
Yeah,
right?
no,
So we're like between
said,
I have a very large family. I'm 8 tickets right, just walking in the door. So this was very actually cost effective for us, but then we were told by people who know, don't even do that at this moment. At this week, don't even do that. So we're going to listen to people who have saved our lives in the past, and we're pretty much in lockdown right now for the next couple of weeks. Hawkeye, if I can take a minute, I'm getting back into shit I said earlier in the show about Naomi, because Hawkeye was an even more exciting thing for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
As Matt has described on the show and elsewhere, he hasn't always had a good relationship with Marvel over this material. So for the final statement of this material being this groovy hit TV show that so reflects his sensibility was delightful to be part of and to see. And he absolutely deserved it. Now, and if that was just that alone, this would have been the most exciting thing this year. I was so happy the Hawkeye show was good. And then on top of it, in the middle of the show, they drop in my Ronin shit, right? Which I didn't know was happening at all. I'm not in the loop anymore. So I find out a lot of stuff when you find it out. And that just made me happy to be part of my friend's thing, right? And then here comes Echo, right? Yep. And also Ronin I did with Joe Quesada. That's something that we did together. So me and Joe have a little bit of fun at the party. And then here comes David Mack's one of the most significant contributions to Marvel is the character Echo. And Echo means a lot to David. Literally as equal as Naomi and Miles means to us is what Echo means to David. And then there she is represented perfectly, just perfect. And they used the absolute right things from his storyline. And there's all kinds of little Easter eggs about David in the show, and it's just everything about it was wonderful. So then, just from my very unique perspective, one best friend gets this cool show, and then we get to throw all our little shit in there at the same time, and it doesn't ruin it, right? So we all get to experience it together, and then there's all our names together at the end, and it made us all go, whoa, and we did. So it was a really magical experience, and that's why I keep tweeting over and over again, make shit with your friends. It just really pays off. And if it all goes to hell, that's fun too.
I'm in the midst of a project that I'm not ready to talk about and understand exactly what you're talking about. Yes. So Zach Goyed has a question about Joy Operations.
Yes, I love Zach. Zach is a good dude and a patient person. Yes,
absolutely. He's a League of Word Balloon listener, long time. Great
yep.
first couple of issues of Joy Operations. How old
Thank
is
you.
Joy supposed to be? I'm also really curious about the person in Joy's head. Will we be getting to meet them soon and learn more about them?
Yes. Okay. Great question. On a couple levels. First of all, Joy is older. Yeah, Joy is like early 40s, and I did that on purpose. Even I came to like, why am I not writing anyone my own age? Like I am an adult person with a and I'm writing and it was just I was writing. It was like a couple weeks where I was only writing children and by my own design, and then I went, yeah, I also have adult thoughts, and literally like wrote down, let's do that. And I also like I wrote down this line: I wish Cherry Jones the actress was a superhero. And and she's older now, and I don't know if that's a thing, but so Cherry Jones's energy was in the creation of Joy. Like I like just had like, what if like Cherry Jones like trained like Keanu Reeves in the Matrix, like that's where I was thinking. And because I just wanted to see that. And then yeah, so we're going to meet Hampton is the other voice named after the writer of the Blade Runner movie. Thank you, I'm very proud of that. Um and she is going to bring a lot of truth too. So when you do a book like this, it's pretty exciting because you have like reveals in the first issue, and then in the second issue you see, oh, more reveals. So now we've let you know you're going to get reveals every issue. So by the end of the fifth issue, you're going to have a complete puzzle like made for you.
Outstanding.
It was absolutely designed this way from the get-go. I personally had read a couple of what started out to be very good books that kind of lost steam by the third issue. It happens in all media. Great. You know how many TV shows where you're like, great first episode, and then right?
Yeah.
So it happens in comics too. And the weird thing about comics is that almost, and this is a fraction quote too, but we've all kind of figured out that really the third issue is your best issue, or it should be. The third issue is when you really start figuring, like, that's the one where you go, I want everyone to see this, right? And
right.
And so I think we've talked about it here a little bit too. Maddie put it in my head like your second issue is your first issue. He just whispered that to me once, like years ago. Like on any book, the second issue should be the first issue. Your first issue is just you're still trying to figure it out. And he said to me years ago, and it's affected everything I've done since like Scarlet on up. Like, what is my first issue? Will I be satisfied that this is the first issue a year from now? Right. So the construction of Joy was very specifically meant to have all of those feelings solved in my heart. Like the book.
Hang on 1 second.
Is that you?
Yes.
Cool. It's like a David Byrne thing. All right, I'll keep going without it. So in the middle of the first issue of Joy Operations, there's he's back. There's the reveal that the voice in her head is not hers. I got very excited about that idea. I know there's been a lot of stories about someone has a voice in their head. I mean, Venom is a story about a character with a voice in their head. But the idea that the audience wouldn't know until the character is ready to deal with it got exciting to me. And I started asking all my friends in comics, has anyone done this? Right? Because anytime you come up with an idea that no one's exactly done that way, you right, like, oh my God. So that was that really got me excited. And then I thought about like, well, the bad version of it is that's a big reveal, and then you've got nothing else for the rest of the story. Like that's all you had, right? So we spent a lot of time, like a year, really planning out that there was much more to the story than that. So,
do you want to give people the 10-cent elevator pitch in general about Joy
sure.
Operations?
So Joy Operations is a brand new sci-fi book we're doing at Dark Horse. It's our first Dark Horse Jinxworld book, and it's by me and co-created by Stephen Byrne, who did Wonder Twins with us over at Wonder Comics, and I did some Legion with him as well. And he's just a brilliant creator and designer. And I asked him, even though we're not close, I reached out and said, you want to make a world with me? And which is exactly, as I've said before, like, you you want to make a baby with me? That's basically what you're asking. And we hunkered down and really went for it. And it's been a really great warm feeling. But the pitch itself is that there's this world, and the big reveal is that a lot of the major cities have been bought and repurposed by all the corporations. And this happened years ago. So the world has been altered. There are no more cities. They're called trusts. And the trusts are all almost like theme parks that are run by the corporations, and they're all machines that self-sustain, and they each have themes, and they each have like things that people want. So if you say, I'm going to go live in the Peachtree Trust, you're making a lifestyle choice. That's the kind of life you want versus a life like this, right? So these trusts have created like all kinds of new kinds of infrastructure underneath them, and new kinds of way to police things. And that's where Joy comes in. Joy is an envoy for one of the trusts. She's kind of the best of the best. She's the Jim Rockford of this world, and she's just a really, really good at her job. And then we meet her there's a voice in her head, and it's talking, and we find out that voice is not her voice, that someone has literally implanted themselves in her to get her to stop her boss from doing something that they're very sure is going to ruin the world. The world is literally about to get ruined, and Joy is the only one that could stop it, and they don't have any time for anything else than this operation. And this operation literally has someone putting themselves inside someone else, a la, and this reference only for John, a la Steve Martin and Lily Tomlin and all of me. Joy is now walking around with a person inside her, and dealing with all of that emails.
I love it. One of my favorite 80s
nothing
movies.
Funnier. I would reference all of me quite often in my emails to Dark Horse, and everyone was talking, and one of the editors pulled me aside and said, "Why did you start referencing Inception instead?" And I go, "Why?" No one knows what the fuck all of me is. No one over here has seen it. They don't know what it is. And I'm like, oh, I love being old.
I'm hip. I understand.
I love how my oldness is manifesting itself. In fact, not to tangent, but this is what I do. So just 2 nights ago, I showed my 2 oldest daughters. They asked to see a Scream. They'd never seen.
Sure.
The original,
with the reboot coming up. Yeah.
And so we put it in, and literally had to pause the movie because my 14-year-old did not understand where they were. And I go, "Sweetie, that's a video store."
Hilarious.
She really paused the movie, goes, "What is this? Where are they standing? Where are they talking?" I go, that's a video store. That's where you had to go to pick up the movies to watch that night. All those kids are picking out a movie that they're going to go home and watch, whereas you can pick any movie you want at any. Yeah. She was like, "What?" And then you'd have to rewind the tape. And I'm laughing. I'm like laughing while I'm talking, because I literally, when I would hold them as babies, I said, I wonder how old I will appear to them, like how my old ageness will refer. Like I remember my mom holding a Helen Reddy 8-track and trying to describe it to me. Like I remember this very clearly. And I go, I wonder when that feeling will hit my kids. And it was then when I was describing, and then she goes, "Well, that's a dumb idea. No wonder it went out of business." I go, "No, honey, they had them all over the place. There wasn't one video store. They were everywhere. There was a Walgreens, there was a video store." And she was like, "What?" Like really shocked. So that was my night. Yeah.
That's outstanding. That's honestly, man, no lie. When I talk to friends about on-demand media, I always bring up, and I remember when you told me this, and it might have even been on Word Balloon, where you and London were driving around and you heard a song on the radio, and London's like, "Play it again."
Yeah.
And you're like, I can't. It's the
No,
radio.
that was live.
Again?
That was live. And he went, I don't know what you're talking about. He didn't even understand what the phrase meant. He was also the one that walked up my DVD wall, which you see in the new house is no longer with us. And he looked at it because he would see like Batman logos and other things he'd recognize. Like it looked like there's some fun shit there, right? And he just looked at the wall and went, "What is this?" That was his relationship to DVDs.
That's fantastic.
And then I will say during the pandemic, there was one night where the cable went out. Like we didn't have internet one night. Like something happened, and it was the infrastructure of the city. And we pulled out the DVDs. We pulled out Jurassic Park on Blu-ray and put it in, and the kids had a blast just putting the disc in.
Sure.
Every one of my friends' heads would melt if they saw this. If they saw how delighted they were. Oh, you touch it in the middle. Oh, man.
Anyway. And there's the little rainbow reflection and everything. No, they're cool. Forgive me, Matt Donahue. You're asking questions that I believe are potential spoilers. If Brian disagrees, I'll let him look at the chat.
I haven't looked. I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me. Where I see Matt Donahue, who has done Krypton the best. Is that a spoiler?
I'm assuming he's asking you to
I must say,
Philip and Tom, I suppose. I don't know. I mean, and also there's a World of Krypton series right now, obviously.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're interested in a really funky, cool looking Krypton, unlike anything else, my darling brother, Mike Oeming, and Nick Filardi, so 2/3 of Powers are working on Superman right now, and it looks beautiful. I have pored over every single panel of this book, just admiring Mike's new phase. I really think he's entered a new phase with stuff. And as when he's done with Worlds of Krypton, we're getting to work on our new thing. So I've been studying the work he's doing with other writers a great deal to see, where I can make some new magic for us. So listen, Mike Oeming does the best Krypton. That's what I say.
All right, there you go. That's fine. He did ask earlier if Taylor was going to use Red Cloud.
If I did, I don't know, but if I did know, I would not answer that. That's always where I get in trouble. And I've gotten in trouble on this podcast before about like accidentally slipping what I didn't even think was a spoiler into the conversation just because I'm excited about my peers and my friends' work. But I have made it clear to anybody, please have at it, go nuts. And I've been very delighted by like Geoff Thorne's been working with Teen Lantern. Like a lot of my stuff's been dropping into the books, and I just saw some panels of Naomi and Black Canary from other people's books that I really really liked. So I'm happy that our good energy is making into other people's books, because that's what used to happen in Marvel too. It was my favorite part. So
and I'll say honestly, I think Tom and Philip are doing a great job on the Superman franchise.
Yes,
I love their stories, and it's really been a pleasure to get to know. I mean, I've known Tom for over 10 years now, but it's been a great pleasure to get to know Philip better. That guy is such a Renaissance man. I mean, my God, he's an incredible musician. I love his last.
I'm not a fan of these Renaissance guys. I don't
really.
Trust this. No, I'm joking. No, I'm just jealous. Who doesn't want to be a Renaissance guy?
I mean, truly, the guy is so great in so many different disciplines. I love his Marvel stuff as well. I think Aliens is a really great comic, and I'm just happy as hell for him. And I just saw him last month. He was in town right after C2E2.
Oh yeah, you guys had a little lunch. Just like we used to.
Exactly. I know, man. Well, I know.
Well, if I ever leave the house again, I will take you to lunch.
Oh, buddy,
because I'm never leaving the house.
I'm gonna have. I know. I want to have. I'm gonna have to make another mother-in-law visit to you. Hello, I'm here for the week. Is that all right? Can I take one of the kids' rooms?
You can. Yes. By the way, you just got a yes from Elisa. So.
Oh, thanks, sweetie. You're lovely. I miss you too. Good Lord. We had so much fun. God damn.
We did.
You guys, seriously, you guys were so lovely to me. Truly. Aww. It really meant a lot. It really meant a lot. It was a lot of fun. Oh, and good. Magic K's got a.
But going back to what you said, I was in Australia years ago, and Tom Taylor gave me a copy of The Deep when he was on Hustle, and I think he doesn't think I remember that.
Show. Go on. Yeah.
No, when it was a comic. And
okay, go on.
Yeah, and I bet he doesn't think I remember that, but I do. So
because
I'm very.
I was going to say this is what I love about how, and again, it's this. Forgive me to the overseas audience that might be watching. Us ugly Americans will just think, yeah, Hollywood. And Tom is having such great success with The Deep. It's a big deal in Australia. If you don't know, think of The Incredibles as an undersea family. That's the easy elevator pitch of it.
Yeah, no, it's a horrible
idea.
How did no one think of this before him? It's a great idea. It's like PJ Masks. It's a brilliant idea.
Yeah. Well, and truly, when we were kids, we'd get the Jacques Cousteau underwater documentary shows, and as exciting as outer space was, so was below the ocean. I mean, they were below the surface. I mean,
we did. We got a lot of Jacques Cousteau content when we were kids.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we did. That's funny.
He was cool for a little old man. Come on.
Yeah, listen, better than Family Feud.
Yes, absolutely.
I agree with you that both Tom and Philip are doing amazing work on those books, and I'm delighted that they've been so lovely to hand the baton to, and have, really the fact that Tom took my controversial John Kent nonsense and turned it into something so next level makes me so happy. And the 6 people who are still screaming at me about it, I think you're gonna have to let it go. I think it's time to move on. I think we're all gonna have to radically accept that this has happened.
I understand.
Yeah, it's been years. Yeah.
All right. Well, Mark McGrath has a good comment. Mark Shaw is another favorite character of mine. I particularly love the John Ostrander Kim Yale series that ran alongside John's excellent Suicide Squad series in the late 80s. Can you talk a little bit about where Mark's head is at in your current Leviathan Checkmate work?
Not without spoiling things. I think you might want to take a look at Checkmate on sale now by me and Alex Maliv. But also Mark Shaw showed up in the last issue of Justice League as well. So with the Royal Flush Gang. So I will never stop writing him. So but I will say I'm with you. I'm a huge fan of John Ostrander and Kim Yale, and have talked about that a great deal. Also, Greg Rucka is an important person in my life, and his work with all of these characters and this lane in the DC universe was always charming and very inspiring to me. So, and also was like, I remember reading all of Greg's stuff thinking, it's so cool to read this stuff and never have to think about what would you do with the characters? I would just enjoy them. Right. And then years later, find myself in a position where I could have some fun and go nuts with them, and yet no one was doing anything with them at the time, so I was really free to go crazy. It was a great joy. It's really my sweet spot. Also, this was one of the few things that Dan DiDio actually came to me with. I described, he in our early meetings said, you would do this, and this, but you know what I really need help with in just a universe building? Our spy section, the section of the DC universe, is quite a messy mess right now, by no one's fault. He goes, but what happens is, over the last few years, every time someone wanted to do something new, they would invent a new, basically a new shield. All right. But they wouldn't get rid of the old shield. They would just create a new shield. So we have and now we have 6 of them, and they're all working on top of each other. And though there's some writers who are having a genuine, interesting commentary about how much that's like the real government, the governments of the world, it really, Dan was looking for a Shield Hydra kind of very easy to because from that simple premise, a lot of complicated stories can evolve, as we know.
Certainly.
But if you have a complicated premise, all you can do is simple stories, and that gets very frustrating. You can't do a complicated premise and a complicated story, or a simple premise and a simple story. You want the mixture of the two. But he found himself stuck with a universe problem. I'd been in a similar situation with Joe, and he sat me down and goes, "Yeah, there's just too many mutants. There's too many mutants for us to tell a good story." And watching him, but once I always get like charmed when I see an editor in chief or a head up get that in their craw. I'm like, well, something's about to happen. Something's about to pop. And sometimes it's exactly what you think it's going to be, and sometimes it's completely different. But he did. He goes, could you come up with a storyline that cleans this up so we can start running? And that's where Event Leviathan came from.
I get it. Zach has a good question. He's loving the DC work too. He's waiting for an announcement of you and Alex Maleev on a Plastic Man mini, or hopefully ongoing. Same with you on a Green Arrow series, but great seeing Ollie get some spotlight. Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Zach. And because it's 12:30 at night, and I'll give you a soft update with me and Alex. So we've committed to our next project. We have what our next project is going to be. We had, and not to be braggy, because of our history together, we had a few choices. It was actually pretty keen, and some of them were superheroes, and one of them was Green Arrow for us to do, and with a clean lane to just go nuts. We chose a scarier project. We chose the scariest thing. We chose the thing that we don't know if we can do, because that's what we like about our heroes. That's what they would do. And so very rarely is there times where it's actually laid out in front of you, like door number 1 or door number 2. It's usually you see it later. You go, oh, I made a good choice back there. But this one, absolutely, there was here's the one you know you can do. Here's the one you don't know you can do. Which one do you think? So yeah, Mike Blacklist, let me tell you, he just said Sonic Disruptors. I would stop what I'm doing right now and finish that series just to like even the universe's energy in my world. The fact that series never finished in my collection is an abomination of which I have not gotten over. And I'm not joking. I walked into the DC archives. That was like my first meeting. When you go there, they were taking me around, touring me with everything. And they take in literally, here's a bunch of postcards that were in Julia Schwartz's desk, and here's every cereal box DC ever made, and like it's everything, right? And they have one copy of everything ever made. And I literally went to the librarian and I said, Sonic Disruptors, and he went, and it literally is the only one not full. It's so fantastic.
Wow. Just because the story stopped, obviously.
It was a maxi series that got canceled at issue 5. And it's very rarely that a mini series doesn't wrap up. So like, we'll make the money somewhere, to finish it up. And this one,
was it Kurt? Who?
No, it wasn't. I want to say,
I'll look it up if you don't know.
Mike's going to hit us before I was literally going to Google it, but Mike Blacklist has the cover right in front of him. He's going to hit us. But I want to see Marty. Is it Marty Pascal? Could that possibly be?
It was Mike Barron and Barry Crane.
Mike Barron. Okay.
Barry Crane, my buddy. Barry Crane, my Chicago buddy. He's a good man. We got to get him on the show and crack the code of what might have followed on Sonic Disruptors. Yes. I've never asked him that.
That's be fantastic. Your highest rated show ever.
And I respect the hell out of Mike Barron. I got to be honest.
Absolutely. I love Mike Barron.
Well, but he's like Florida man.
People know what we're talking about.
I'm sorry, say it again.
No, I'm just saying right now, 4 people know what we're talking about. Maybe.
It's all right.
Totally.
That's all right.
Totally. Are you kidding? I have friends who have no idea what I'm referring to when I refer to this.
Well, again, you and I are talking about all of me. So, what do we know?
But it did. I will say, I remember it giving, when I was collecting the Griffin from DC, it gives like collecting those other books from DC a little more attention. Like I hope it gets published, and it of course they did.
Well, you can answer. I think you kind of answered this before, but I'll
Sure.
let
What
Stephen
was that?
Ernest
Oh,
say
sure.
this. How involved are you, or do you want to be in writing for TV and film? So you've got, as you've said, some projects in the works. What can you tell us
Yeah.
of the
Well,
projects?
it's project by project, and I know it's weird. I mean, for my whole life, comics is the dream and
Oh yeah,
the goal, and and that's all I ever wanted to do when I wasn't looking for anything else. But these doors open; they swing open, and how do you not try when given the opportunity? And I've had some genuinely great experiences, like even producing the Powers TV show that no one knows existed. Behind the scenes, we had a great time. And in fact, just recently, some of the actors were like DMing each other, and it made me so happy that they were happy. Like after all these things that had been revealed about Hollywood, I'm like, oh, I hope our set wasn't shitty, right,
yeah.
and it was. I'm so glad it wasn't. And um so yeah, so what happens is like opportunities come, and if I think I can do it, or I'm like, oh my god, I want to do that, I try with all my heart. And so like right now, I'm working on cover for HBO Max with David Mack and Rooster Teeth, and that's pretty far along. We'll get a decision pretty soon whether they're going to go for it or not. I genuinely have no idea. It's like the comic itself; it's very unique. There's nothing else like it, and I hope they go for it, because so far it's been a delight behind the scenes. Also, just seeing David Mack's work animated is I could watch it all
Yeah.
day. It's just
Yeah.
like I hope someone who has to decide for us feels it when they watch it. I like it. It's like a spa. It feels good. And what I remember, I haven't been to a spa in like years. I don't. Who knows? Uh, just a memory. So these things come up, and just part of it is like opportunity to try something, and also the craft person in me is like, I want to do this. I want to say I want to say I wrote a great Kitty Pryde movie, right? Like, and so
Right.
when that gets offered, I will sit and do it. And I did. I had a great experience. It was also somehow elevated by the fact that I knew the movie wasn't being made, that I could just craft. Like I could just, it's just like I'm making a puzzle for myself. Like I knew Disney merged with Fox. This wasn't happening. So I could just write. It was
So,
beautiful.
all right. So wait a minute, to clarify that.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Did you? Well, then no, it's okay. So I mean, yeah. Did you have an inkling, but they didn't officially tell you that it was dead? Is that how it worked? I mean, yeah. Tell me, because that sounds weird. Go
So
on.
I got hired thanks to Tim Miller, who I knew through the grapevine, the director of Deadpool, but I knew him
Deadpool
through
director.
animation and video
Yeah.
games. But he had done like every great cutscene and every great video game you'd ever seen, including like DC Online, and just really great stuff. And so that's where we knew each other from. And he got into his head that he wanted to do the Kitty Pryde haunted house, monster in the house story, from that famous story, and then told them to hire me. And I never even discussed it with him. It was really cool. It was a cool, like out of the blue
Awesome.
call. And I was thrilled when I like looked at the issues again. Oh, there's enough story here for a movie. Is there like it was only an issue? Like, is there? It was 2 issues. But
Well, no, you're right, because Killing Joke, they're like, hey, that's not enough for a full movie, and
yeah, it's
Azzarello
about
gave
15
that
minutes
whole
of story. Yeah, it's about
right.
15 minutes of screen story. Yeah. So but there was the way it was all laid out there. It was all there. So I started writing, basically a horror movie, an X-Men horror movie, a girl alone in the house, and really try to like get some Jewish representation in there.
Sure.
I thought but I did have this inkling while it was being made. I was sitting, like, even before the merger, I was like, they're not making anything else like this. Like and also I was part of the creative committee. Like I knew where the lines were in Kevin Feige's head. Like I knew them. I wasn't guessing. I knew where they were. We worked together for years in that creative committee. And so I'm like, yeah, Kevin ain't gonna go for this. And so and then when the merger happened, I was like, yeah, there's no way this happens. And then the guy in charge of all of our movies was no longer there. And like, yeah, that's how you find like this isn't happening. And I got a lovely note when I handed it in, actually a very lovely note. And then off it goes. But I did have that whole last draft. I said, this is literally just for me. This is just for me to, and I instead of like some people get frustrated, I didn't. And because I have stuff produced, so that tension of getting it produced wasn't there for me. I couldn't control whether this got made or not. But I could control what I did with this time. And I would like to be a better screenwriter, and I would like to be a better a planner, like story planner, right? And I go, what a great project to really do that on, to really like pull out the cards and really hunker down with. And I did. So I used it, little writing seminar for myself.
Okay.
Yeah. So the answer is yes. And then, but I know that the confusion is that there's other projects that I have no involvement in that are so personal to me. And that's just because this gets offered and there's no need for us at all. You know, and they have it. They have something better than us. Go for it. Not have at it. I get to make the book. It's cool. So.
Right. Oh no, absolutely. Someone asked earlier, and I don't know what happened in the chat, but and I didn't realize there's a Marvel Cinematic Universe book that kind of lays out the history, and and someone in the chat had thought that the role of the creative committee that came from the comics, that their role was minimized in the account of the book, and they wanted to get your take on it. And I thought that was an interesting question.
Yeah, that is a good question. I haven't read the book, so I would be, and I hate when people talk about my shit when they haven't read it, and that happens all the time. So I have to give a caveat that reading, commenting on what I heard about a book is literally me being the biggest hypocrite I could possibly be, because that's the one thing I online, I'm like, oh, you didn't read the book, then you're just talking about what you heard about the book. But some of the quotes I've heard from like the Russos and stuff, it make me feel that their perception is just different than our, like they didn't experience what we experienced. We were never in the same room together for it, so they would not have that. So what I know to be true and what they may know to be true are totally different. Now, where the book, I think, if I may have failed, is that I was not interviewed. I was part of the creative committee. If they're doing a chapter on the creative committee, I have a very interesting take. I'm the only civilian on the thing. Everyone else was executives. I'm the work for hire gun who wasn't part of this happened over my head, like literally, you know, when it all fell apart. So
Dan Buckley, Alan Light, and Joe Quesada, the executives.
They were having issues, and that went the way it went, and then I got a call. That we're not doing that anymore, and I'm like, so this has happened a couple of times where I'm like, oh, you didn't even call us, then you don't have a book. You missed I could have helped. I could have made it juicier. So, but they either didn't do that because they wanted that take and no other thing. But you and I have talked about these oral histories of show business that we both read, and you got to get everyone's take. You got to get everyone. Yes. The interesting part is when one person says it was blue and the other was, no, it was green. It was clearly green. That's the interesting thing. So, yeah, I think I know for a fact the creative committee was enormously helpful to the birth of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I know for a fact that things that Joe Quesada said in those meetings ended up in the trailer. Like that's how big stuff. I'm not even talk about anybody else. I'm just like things Joe said ended up almost verbatim in trailers of Captain America movies and such. So I think that should not be discounted, that some of what was their genuine success that other people did not have was because they had things like the creative committee. They had a room full of people giving them the business every step of the way, and saying, hey, you did that already last movie, don't do it again this movie. They're like, you just sometimes need another set of eyes to just help you through. And I really, while it was going on, the reason we all came together is that Marvel immediately found themselves in a position where they couldn't do test screenings. Like everything got leaked, and this was like early goings. This is like 2005. Imagine today, literally, like there were like whole scenes of Spider-Man I saw on Twitter, but people like streaming live from the theater. It's impossible to surprise people, right? And so they, by putting us together for Iron Man on up, here's a bunch of people we can trust that will tell us the truth, and not just go, good job everybody, but really get into it. So I'm very grateful for the time I spent there. I really do feel it was like my doctorate in a way, like my advanced storytelling college. I still to this day, I'm in rooms making good choices because of stuff that happened in that room, or the things that I saw people do or not do. And now I get the benefit of, and it really is, and I'm not joking, I don't miss it because I did it for so long that it did run its course. And now I get to watch the movies free of spoilers. Like I used to come on here and go, I know everything that's happened in the next 10 years. But really it was all spoiled for me. And I used to like sit at dinners with my friends and not be able to talk because I knew stuff that I wasn't supposed to know. And even if I would like want to whisper and spill it, I know I was then ruining the conversation that everyone was having. Like they're having a normal pop culture conversation, which I could ruin with my spoiler. So I would be quiet. And again, high class problem, but one that I had. And then every once in a while, someone would look at me and go, "You know who dies in the movie, don't you?" And and I have to be quiet. So now it's fun to watch them having had that experience, sometimes thinking what would have been different if we were part of it, or what wouldn't have been different, or what do they still apply to the movies because of us. And I do, and that's the part where I get a little, I go, there are things they do that are flat out because of the creative committee that are part of the DNA of working, that aren't working in other places. And so when the directors can't see that there was a machine that was helping even parts of the machine you can't see, that's a bummer that they couldn't tell.
Okay.
Long answer, but it was one of the most unique experiences. It was one of the most unique experiences of my life, from the first Iron Man movie till the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I was in the trenches of every single one. I saw how the sausage was made at every level sometimes. And it was, and now we know it was like the most important pop culture thing that's happened in our generation. Like there's nothing else that's discussed as in our culture. So I'm okay with that book not totally understanding what our thing was, because I was there and I know what our thing was. And I'm honored that I was there. I was honored to be in the room.
Sure. No, and also that whole thing with the creative committee, I think gave the only other example, and I would talk about this with you and Loeb in particular, was the Bond franchise, where the producers really dictated where the story was coming from, rather than a director being in charge. And obviously over the years that has changed in the Marvel Cinematic Universe without the creative community, but it is still obviously a production led, in my perception of it, at least.
I would disagree with that. It seems that like, and not just Marvel, like any scenario I've been in, it could, the inspiration for production can come from anywhere. Like a director came in and said, I want to do this. And all of a sudden they're doing it, right? They weren't doing it yesterday, but they're doing it today. Or they were like, you know what? We really like, I have very fond memories of, for years, Kevin wondering if Guardians was a thing. All right. And this is pre Star Wars J.J. Abrams, where there were no Star Wars movies. Like there was no real actual Star Wars being produced. And him wondering if we weren't sitting on Star Wars. Like, is Guardians of the Galaxy Star? Like that, those words came out of his mouth, right?
Interesting.
So that kind of stuff. So it's like, it literally come from anywhere from a screenwriter had a great pitch, an intern wrote a draft. We want to do this. Hasbro sold 1 million Deadpools, make a Deadpool. It comes from anywhere. So it's not production led. It is business led. They're not going to make anything they don't think they can find a return on. But you know, they take big swings. That's the other thing too. I loved how big the swings were getting. Like, we're doing Ant-Man. Great, because of course now it's a no-brainer. And then Guardians of the Galaxy seems like a no-brainer. And Iron Man seems like a no-brainer. They were huge brainers at the time. They were not written in stone hit movies at all.
Matt Singer and I were talking last night, or it was last night. And truly, I remember you and
Matt's writing the book. I have been studying to write All Pandemic. Did he tell you what book he's writing?
No, tell me.
He's writing like a history of Siskel and Ebert.
Oh, that's great. Oh, I had no idea. We totally were just best movies and TV shows of 2021.
Yeah, he's doing a deep Siskel and Ebert dive, and I've literally spent the pandemic. That was my safety zone.
You know,
for the first.
I do remember him mentioning that, and I told him because I was on an acquaintance level with Gene. I wouldn't say we were good friends, but we hung out a lot in the 90s. And God, I mean, I saw him after he had gotten his cancer diagnosis and was just beside himself. We had no idea because we would we'd always go for big horse racing days, and it was the races in November right now that are escaping me, Breeders' Cup, and yeah, we would go to the private room at an OTB. And Gene was sitting by himself, and we're like, hey, man, you know, just like we always do, come on with us and stuff. And he's like, nah, I got something on my mind, guys. I really would rather be alone. We're like, okay, man, you know, obviously we knew there was something wrong, and a week later we found out about the diagnosis. And no, that's great because, God, that whole relationship is incredible.
Yeah, I didn't mean to derail you. You were saying something about Matt Singer. I just like, I talk about being envious. No, but being envious and jealous of someone when he said he was doing it, you were go, oh, I'm so jealous. Anyway,
absolutely, no, that's great. No, I was gonna say because we were when you and Joe told me, I'm like, so what's next? And you're like, Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'm like, why? and truly, it was yeah. I mean, who wants to raccoon in a tree? What are you nuts?
But you're gonna tell him, really? Yeah, I know. I walked into my wife and I said, I think I'm going to bail on Avengers and write Guardians of the Galaxy. And she goes, oh, what's that? And I go, well, it's a tree and a raccoon. And so again,
you're not alone, Alyssa. Yeah.
I was right. Anyway,
you were. No, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
No, but in that regard, I had gotten a peek at what was coming.
Sure.
I go, oh, you know what? This might be a goddamn thing. And I was so enamored with the swing. Like, why wouldn't I want to be part of the swing? Like if I like that, then be part of it. They're offering you to be part of it. So yeah,
100%.
Really cool. Yeah.
Warren wants to. Great storyboard artist, Warren Drummond. Everybody wants to know. Did I miss something in the new Avengers story where some Avengers are captured? They think they escaped, but you find out the Dark Avengers had them mind controlled. Maybe issue 29. Never saw them actually escape, and yet they were free the next time I saw them. I don't remember that story.
I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer for that. I don't. You know what? I'll let me do some diving. Let me dig in and see if I can figure that out. I'm sorry. That was 3 lifetimes ago.
Sure. No, absolutely, man.
Yeah. It's happened. Absolutely. I don't remember. Yeah.
Ricardo wants to know, how satisfied are you on your Superman Action Comics run? Is there something you didn't get to do or write for whatever reason?
Oh, well, I am I'm as satisfied as my little Jewish heart allows me. Like I'm not wired for satisfaction, but if I can be a little bit more mature about it and tell you that, yeah, the gift of being able to write Superman for a couple of years is one I'll never forget. It brought me nothing in my life. It brought me nothing but happiness. And then added to that, even when things got squirrely at DC, I'm writing Superman. And in a pandemic, I'm writing Superman. And like it kept giving me hours of time where I had to think good thoughts. Like, remember, like in the pandemic, where like it was hard to think a good thought, like for a while.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
writing Superman, and it's my job that, like, so I'm sitting there going, and if it's not the best thought, it's not Superman's thought. It's wrong. That's not Superman. So I'm sitting here, like, it would train me into a healthier mind space in a time where I really needed it. And so I'm intensely grateful for the entire scenario like that. You know, the only downside is when you do something and you make people mad and they can't let it go. But I've done that literally on every book I've ever had. There's no book. And there's no way to argue that point to anybody who's sort you. I'm like, yeah, that's part of why I was brought to the book. They wanted me to shake it up. They wanted new stuff. My biggest concern would be that I shake it up and then they'd all put it back. And
Yeah,
they didn't. They did not. They committed to Superman being his new self, and they committed to John Kent and where they're going with that. And those are my contributions to it. And I'm grateful they continue. And even if it's just for however long, like I felt the same way about Daredevil. Like we made some major changes and they kept him for a long time, a really, really, really long time. Same thing with X-Men. I just did not expect it. The way these wheels turn, sometimes they can slingshot back very quickly. And but in your heart, you know that, and you kind of like, that's, you agree to play the game knowing that could happen. But in your heart, you're like, wow, I hope this really lands. I hope this sticks. I hope this becomes part of it. Right. So as I get more distance from it, which I have very little because I'm literally still writing Superman like this week. I find myself satisfied. Also, I have a few runs of books that I can honestly say there's no bad looking page. There's not a page that every single page is gorgeous. And my Superman in Action run, hands down. My fill-in guy was Ryan Sook. Okay, that's yeah. Every single page is great.
Was it Yvonne Rice who did the one page that you sent me where it's all silent and Clark reveals to Perry that
he's almost identical relationship that I had with Mark Bagley that I had with Ivan, where here's this wonderful artist who I didn't know when I first started working together, but boy, I love their stuff. And immediately found like some energy together, like, oh, like the way he draws eyes, I can write those eyes, right? And then and his Superman was just human and handsome and just this like real. And so yeah, by the time we get to issue 18, like the biggest moment, ain't gonna have any words on it because it's all you, man. And I literally full confidence that he would nail it, and he nailed it. Like it was yeah. I there's a couple of times in my life where I was like, I fully expect this to be nailed, and boom. Yeah.
And I'm assuming that was Joe Prado on inks, and I don't want to minimize
Joe Prado and
love Joe,
and Alex Sinclair, who was an enormous part of the success and the continuity of my run. Yeah,
that's outstanding.
So I walked into, and also like I walked in the door at DC. I don't know any of these people. We know of each other, but we don't know each other. It's weird. It's like but I left some of my old friends to meet new friends, and there's nothing wrong with my old friends, but like, but here I am with new friends, and they all have different histories with the character and with the company, and I'm not aware of all of them at the time. So we are just all kind of meeting at this certain space, and off we go. And yeah, it was really magical just to like meet and start making magic immediately. Yeah. Understood. I hope we get to do it again. I really hope we get to do it. The literally one of the biggest high class bummer problems in my life is that there's only I would like to keep all of these relationships going all of the time. And obviously there's only so many hours in the day, and you also want to try new stuff too. But I wish I was working with Mark Bagley today. I miss working with him.
Very cool. Again, I don't know why, but comments are disappearing from the chat, so I might pull back.
I thought so too. I saw that one before. All right, it's okay.
Warren, to wrap up with Warren says he met you at Golden Apple Comics with John Singleton, and that you were very nice.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. That was pretty cool. Yeah, that was nice.
And then Warren thanks me for the kind of he's
Warren. Then I apologize for nerding out on your friend and probably not paying you enough attention because I was so excited to meet John. So I apologize for that.
There you go. Hey man, no, and truly, that's awesome.
I'm sure I did that, by the way. I don't know that I did that, but I'm sure that I did that.
Well, it's nice. It's nice. I didn't know that Warren worked on the Ms. Marvel show and did storyboarding for that a year ago. He says so. That's really cool.
Oh, that's great. Cool.
No, he's cool. Yeah. No, Warren's more. Go look up his IMDb page, everybody. You will not be disappointed in the great stuff that Warren has done. He said all good, and he goes, "You were great." So there you go.
Okay, good.
All right. So that's cool. That's cool to hear. Also, someone asked earlier, would you ever work with Liam Sharp? And if so, do you have a character in mind that you'd love to do with Liam? I love Liam.
Liam and I did one page together in the Trial of the Legion of Superheroes, issue 8. I picked a character specifically for his unique talent. I've been a big Liam fan for a long time.
Great guy.
And I will say when we had a couple of DC retreats in the Dan DiDio time that we were all together, and Liam and I gravitated to each other at the after party immediately and started talking and stuff. So I would love that. I don't talk to him all the time, but I would love to figure that out one day. That would be great. We did dance around the idea of doing something.
Okay.
Then him and Grant got together, and I'm like, I'm not gonna top that.
That was honestly, I love that run. I thought it was incredible. And I love his work with Rucka as well, that he did right at the beginning of Rebirth. Now Liam knows what he's doing. Jace, most challenging part of Superman run for me was when Lois was the Lois Clark relationship. You had a very different take. Can you talk about Lois revealing Clark as Superman to her dad without talking to Clark first?
I take their marriage very seriously. I take marriage very seriously. Obviously, you've been in the house, and I have a marriage I'm very proud of, and I'm surrounded by other marriages that I'm very proud to just be around. And often in the cheapness of drama, that's the first thing that writers go to. Like they break up the marriage, they ruin the relationship. It's very easy to do. And it is true. It happens in life. So people do it, but sure. It's actually harder to sustain a relationship in a drama, right? It's because the gnomes of drama are trying. Oh, what do you want to do? We're dramatists. We want to do the worst thing we can think of. And that's, fuck up this family. But the hardest thing you could do is really like describe what that relationship is. And I really try to because their relationship was always like a Jerry Seinfeld punchline to me. But in the reality, you think about like the deep understanding they have of each other. Right. And like, I even made a comment towards the end of my run where he says something about her jackhammer heartbeat. Like he loves the sound of her heart. It calms him down. Right. There's just people in the world that they just make you feel better. And you so I'm going to stand by you for the rest of my life because you make me feel better. And so just like how he perceives her with his super senses. You don't see what he sees and you don't hear what he hears, but what he sees and hears, he loves more than anything else in the universe. The end. She's a better writer than him.
Right.
Right. She's his peer. Right. And they are parents with the same goals together. And they have agreed as parents that what they're trying to do is nearly impossible. Right. They're going to raise what I declared. And I know this annoyed some people, but it's not a negative. He's a special needs child. He needs things that are different than other children, right? From the day he was born, he is a unique unicorn of a child. So their relationship is now about making sure they don't mess up the unicorn, right? They do right by him at every chance they can, fully also knowing that they live dangerous lives. Both of their lives are dangerous. A reporter's life is dangerous and Superman's life is dangerous. So I really wanted to like get in there and show them alone as often as I could without boring everybody, but to show you that any chance they could for a snuggle, they'll take it, right? With busy families will tell you that's what it feels like. You know, you grab your moments when you can, right? And if you don't think you're grabbing them, you go extra special to grab them. So I thought that was a lot about what the relationship should be like. And yes, so Lois does that, but I don't think it was a betrayal to Superman. I've had this happen where my wife came to me and said, I did something, I didn't run it by you, but I know you're gonna be okay with it. But it's big, right? And she's always been right, like always. It's never been a betrayal. It's never been like I was in the moment. It had to happen. I did it. I know you're okay with it. I know you support me, but you might need a minute. But here's the difference. And so that's how I perceived it. Is that yes, she kind of blurted it out, but it wasn't like a blurt. It was, this has to be fixed. Truth has to be said. All right. This is a lie and it's affecting my relationship with my father. And our whole jam is supposed to be about truth. So we're literally doing the opposite of what we tell everybody else. Let's fix it right now.
And I so agree with you on Clark's perception of Lois. From day one, she impressed the hell out of him. Who is this woman? I need to know her. And yeah, it's the same conversation I've had with Rucka as well, in terms of Lois is the most fascinating person in the universe to Clark Kent. It's that simple. And that's why they're in love. And he does trust her and he knows that she's smarter than him. And he loves that about her. I mean, honestly, he's impressed by her constantly.
And may I say, Greg put a lot of these ideas in my head. Like
that's cool.
From back when I was at Marvel and he was at DC, to him literally being at my bedside when I was ill, and him just literally just talking me through it. And this is what we talked about.
Yeah.
So yeah. I may be parroting things that he said. That's how incepted I am by Greg's take on this. And he's absolutely right.
That's funny. Jay says my favorite character is Clark and my wife's name is Lois. Maybe I take it more seriously than most. Appreciate the answer and your take. Though
I'm sincerely asking, did you go look for a Lois? It had to be a Lois? Was it a deal breaker?
That's funny about her not checking with him first. I mean, but yes, Lois is Clark's world. That you nailed. Absolutely.
I don't know. I'm in a relationship. My wife once bought a house for our family. Knowing she fully knew I would love the house. She did not have to. She knew. So that's not a betrayal. I know other people here that go, "What? I would never." But no, that's every relationship to their own. So
I love the laugh. See, this is great.
4 kids never even ran it by me.
Oh, that's funny. Hayden says, "Appreciate the late stream, guys. I'm on a night schedule, so this has been a treat." Glad to hear that.
You know what's funny? Oh, I meant to open with this. Open. So I always felt like these long jams we've been doing all these years, I love them, and I know that people do love them. And I was like, well, what does it feel like to experience them? Like it's just me and you having a conversation that we would have, whether we're on camera or not. But what is it like to sit here? And I know people have listened to the whole thing. And then, and I'm plugging this now too. I hope people check this out. Tarantino has entered the podcast space wholeheartedly. And did you see this 4-hour podcast he did with Roger Avery? Going over, it's on Pure Cinema. It's the New Beverly podcast. He owns the New Beverly. He owns the podcast, but he has a new thing he's doing with him and Roger Avery, which I'm thrilled they're back together. I thought they had some kind of historic breakup, but they literally just going through things they discovered this year. So it's these two guys that know everything, still finding new shit from the 70s that they didn't know was around. It's a 4-hour long podcast. It literally puts us to shame. I was riveted by the whole thing. I had never heard of any of the movies they were talking about. Not one. No, one of the Doberman Gang I'd heard of. Nothing
I remember that
else.
movie.
Yeah, of course you do. And I was riveted, and it made me think of us. And then it also takes us to it was a reflection of Tarantino did one with Edgar Wright for the Empire podcast. He did it at the end of last year. And this was maybe the best podcast I've heard all year. It was Edgar Wright and Quentin Tarantino going over their hidden gems of British cinema, mostly crime films. And they were working off a list that Martin Scorsese gave them. So if you listen to the podcast, Edgar Wright emails Martin Scorsese and goes, I'm a British filmmaker and I still feel like there's holes in my education. There's still things I've missed. Give it to me. Let me have it. And Martin Scorsese sent him a list of which Edgar read on the air. And it's delightful because you could hear Edgar so excited and everyone's so excited and Tarantino also excited, but in his heart, Tarantino knows Scorsese will always beat him at this. Like you could like Tarantino wants to be the Uber Tarantino, but Scorsese will always be like 10 years ahead, no matter what. And everything that Edgar Wright was saying was just blowing his mind. It was great. So I highly recommend these long ass podcasts, particularly for my artist friends who are looking for long ass shit to listen to while they're drawing. They were great. And also, may I say, I was blown away by Tarantino's ability to pitch because he was pitching movies I had never heard of, never seen. I was completely entertained by everything he was saying. I was never lost. I was never in the weeds.
Yeah. I think he was on the Projection Booth podcast, and I heard a 4-hour run from him, and he was going over movies that are on YouTube that people should watch.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was and man, I'll tell you, and I've been recommending to people like Gabe Hardman, who's a great old Hollywood buff as well. There was this early 40s movie. If you know Meet John Doe, and I know it's from the 30s and Frank Capra, but
I thought you meant the Brad Pitt one. Sorry.
No, that's Meet Joe Black. There's a character in Meet John Doe whose character's name is Old Sourpuss, and he looks like Fred Mertz, a thinner Fred Mertz. That's the and I don't remember the character actor's name, but he made this movie in 1940 called The Last Alarm that was a Poverty Row crime film about an arsonist, and he is a retiring fireman that hates the fact that he's got to retire, winds up dealing with this reporter and breaking this arson story. And it is so great. And that, among others, he also recommended an amazing screwball comedy that Kirk Douglas made with Keenan Wynn. And it's called My Dear Secretary. And it's the funniest thing. Keenan Wynn is literally Kirk Douglas's wingman when they go and try to get girls. And it's the funniest Keenan Wynn role I've ever seen. It's his greatest role. Wow. And I know, I mean, truly, I'm like, holy, and really, Tarantino sold me on these movies the way he was talking about it. Even the Bowery Boys or the East Side Kids movies, not the Bowery Boy movies where Hunt Saw and Little Gorsairs, the Bowery Boys, and they're like 50 years old. Going back when they actually were children. I
remember as a kid watching those going, I don't buy the premise.
Hey, fix my truss, will you? My hernia is acting up again, Satch. Yeah, no problem, boss. Anyway, people don't even know what the fuck a truss is. Who am I kidding? Oh, good question. A good meta question about your
Mhm.
run. Here, I love this Radium Theater Productions. What was John doing day to day when he was in the Earth 3 volcano? In your mind, what was he
Well,
doing to stay
I will
sane?
tell you, it's funny. There are certain things where like, yeah, it's all make them up. And in this instance, I actually wrote a big outline of what happened because there may have been a version of the story where we would go back to it, like we would return to it for more reveals. In the end, I think I came up with no, we got there. Like it just also I'm not like overly dying to like do torture scenes in comics anymore. Like I know. Listen, there's plenty of torture scenes. You can find them somewhere, but unless they really discover something new about the character, I'm not into it. But yeah, he fell in love. He like all kinds of like a genuine like teenage adventure happened to him throughout that thing that you could do a whole miniseries about it if they wanted to. Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of stuff happened, a lot of dramatic stuff that, and I did, there was one version where I was like going on and on and on and on. And like, no, the takeaway is that Clark and Lois raised him a certain way and he got thrown into a fire pit and it held like he made it through his little trial by fire, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Like he had something bad happen and he came out of it better than he was, a la Peter Parker, a la and any of your heroes. That's what you want them to have. And though I do understand that people love John deeply, what you don't want to do is create a situation where nothing ever happens to John because we all love him so much, because nothing ever happens, then the character goes away because it's boring. So like people don't, things have to happen to the characters. They have to be tested. You're right. They have to be put through something for us to root for them. And and he's smiling because he knows it's the biggest problem comic book writers have is we torture the characters. That's our job, to torture the characters, to show you how great they are at handling it. And then you as readers can get a hold of us and go, why do you hate my favorite character? Why are you doing this to them? Because in your head, you're going, well, it's not Lex Luthor torturing Superman. It's the guy who wrote this. That's the guy who's torturing him. So, and so you come to me and I'm like, yeah, because I love him so much. All right. And I've seen other characters, fine characters debut and then just kind of tread water. And everyone loved them. And then they just kind of fall into the ether, not just in comics, but in all our different, places we do this kind of stuff. And it's really the characters that get challenged over and over and over again that can really stand the test of time. So, and that's the reason. It's never because I'm going to torture your favorite thing and I'm going to ruin it. It's never. Yeah. But people come to me as if we're engaged in that kind of relationship. Like that's Twitter hits me with, God damn you. Like I've already escalated our relationship to God damn you. And I don't know you, right? That's not what I'm not. No, I'm trying to tell you my job. And I am trying to tell you an exciting story that challenges the characters, that it challenges the how to tell the story, if I can, in any way, shape, or form. That's the job. It's never to be mean to you as a person or to your favorite character, right?
Sure. No, I get it. And then, I mean, I understand that, but I also can
Yeah, I know,
appreciate,
but I know, but we've hit a wave now where there's a kind of a new generation of, like, let's say, like I've seen Philip Johnson dealing with some of this, and he's confused. Like, why are you yelling at me? I'm trying to tell you a Superman story. It's okay if you don't like it, but yelling isn't necessary. I'm just trying to tell you a story. It's okay if you don't care for it. That's all. But yeah, I know. I'm going to get us there. I'm going to do it. This is the year where I get everybody on the same page on Twitter. I'm sure I can do
it. Tell him 29. Brian, I've really enjoyed Joy Operations. Thanks for another interesting Jinxworld story.
Thank you. I take that very seriously. I've tried to describe this in the newsletter a little bit. Now that I've got some years under my belt, I now know officially it's never going to be easy to put new stuff out in the world, emotionally, physically. It's hard, and it's hard in a very crowded culture. It's hard too. Like everyone's putting out stuff, right? And so you want to have something unique and special, and so also because I have so much stuff out, when I'm trying new stuff and you guys give it a shot, it means the absolute world to me. I get emotional about it. I do not take it lightly. And so when we're putting the books together and I do my 50th draft of the script, it's because that's how seriously I take you guys supporting us. So thank you.
Remind people of what you're doing with your Substack.
Well, I haven't really announced what I'm doing with my Substack yet, but at the moment I have a pretty, I got to say, pretty lively newsletter scenario. We were doing pretty well, but when I announced the Legion show, we kind of exploded in views. So I appreciate it immensely. So I have a newsletter that I think is the best iteration of communicating with everybody. It's the most like the old message board than anything I've had since the message board. And it's funny, like even last week, a bunch of the old message board people, you know, they swing around by about twice a year in the mentions, and have a bit of a reunion, discuss whether or not we should bring back the message board, realize quickly, well, that could never happen today. And we all tip our hats at each other. But I do think that I feel the response to the newsletter, it feels like how the message board felt. Like I'm being able to communicate more than a half a thought to you, more than just hyping shit. And I'm able to like pour in stuff I'm teaching in class, how I'm really feeling about certain things, bring back no life. And, I was putting a letter column together for Joy Operations, and I literally was like, well, this is the most useless form of communication. I think I wrote, I go, this is like telegrams and handshakes. We don't need these anymore, but I'm doing them. So, yeah. So there'll be content in the letter columns from the newsletters and vice versa. So people will have them. But
and like you said, no life. I mean, people want to know what you're watching and what you're listening to and everything. You know that.
I appreciate that. I never took it for granted. I always, but yeah, and I do feel I abused it sometimes by trying to get people to get into Nick Cave. But I got a couple people. I'm happy about that.
Go ahead.
But to answer the longer, so do subscribe to Substack, because that is going to be where most of my social media will be, and I am going to be part of what's going on with the Spencer of it all, and we'll be having some really unique content coming into that space. So, and I think you'll be delighted how much of it will be available.
That's awesome. Well, confirm for people that beyond Naomi, there are other future DC projects in the works.
Oh, well, yes, but nothing locked down yet. So
okay.
I gotta say, I'm finishing up Justice League. I'm finishing up this Legion thing, but we have other Legion things that could go. If that happens, that is a primary concern to me. If there's more Naomi on the horizon, I'm happy to do that. It's a joyous situation, but at the moment, and you'll hear these announcements soon, and we'll get right back on this thing to talk about. I think
thanks, man.
People know I have a project with Andre Lima that hasn't been announced yet. That's a pretty major publishing event in my life, which has opened some other publishing doors in my life, that has pivoted some of my energy into areas, like I said before, that I am not comfortable in, that I'm scared of. And that got me really excited. I was offered, to come back to Marvel. I was offered to do a lot of stuff in the comics community, but then there's this other stuff happening at Substack, happening in the other areas where I'm like, well, that is a challenge, and I am honored to have it. So I will try that. Yeah,
that's cool.
But that doesn't close the door on superheroes. I want to make that clear. There's a lot. I know some of the Substack guys went, that's it, I'm out. But that is completely understandable. But that's not where my heart is. as I've described a couple of times, I have to remind myself that I have climbed some mountains, and that though I love those mountains, that life is finite, and if there's other mountains in front of you, maybe let's not to be too zen, shouldn't I try those? But again, in 3 days I could go, oh my God, I know what to do with, and then have a thing. But my heart's been into the new scary areas, like what I'm doing with Alex and what I'm doing with Mike, and also my new partnership with Dark Horse, which has been just effing wonderful. I'm just so happy we found each other at this time. So,
well, and I was gonna that was my question. Mike selling Dark Horse does that positively or negatively impact your deal at all?
Well, I didn't know. It doesn't affect me at all, and it's his business, so I don't want to talk too much
Understood.
outside of his business. But no, it doesn't. It doesn't affect us. And
Okay.
Mike is still running. Mike runs Dark Horse, and Mike is doing right by us, so we're good.
Oh, good, man. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
are you tired? You need to wrap it up. You need to wind it down.
Tired. I'm not tired.
Right.
Unless I'm keeping you and Elisa from anything. I mean, it's I mean, we've gone two.
She is. She's doing something over there. I don't know what she's doing over there. Oh, there's a lot of questions. I'm sorry. I didn't even scroll.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, please stay at DC a little longer." And
oh no, I again, the projects in front of me are like I have a year's worth of work in front of me. I've even talked about the Justice League annual I just did with Sanford Green. It's this absolutely beautiful document. It's one of the most beautiful books I've ever had. So no, I'm not. There's no drama like that. It's just I've been pulled into some interesting directions that I didn't think would ever be available to me, and
I love Sanford's work, by the way.
Oh my God!
He's the best.
Sanford and I have been dancing around. He's such a sweetheart. We've been dancing around each other for years, looking for something. Him and Walker doing amazing work together.
Bitterroot, yeah.
Pour through those issues of Bitterroot, going, man, look at this. This is so, because like me and some people know that me and Sanford worked together a little bit on the Marvel MMO, the Marvel Universe MMO. Some of those motion comics were me and a very young Sanford. But that was not the Sanford we have today. And so we kept dancing around, and he just goes, I want an annual. I'm like, done. And I think I got it approved before he could even think about it twice. So and I go, give me a list, and he goes, I want OMAC, I want this, I want that, and I made it all happen. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's
because we talked about if an artist has a list of shit they've always wanted to do, and you can find a way to blend it into a story that really works, the art will be amazing. Because this Sanford's been waiting forever to draw OMAC. So guess what? Page 2 is the best OMAC drawing I've ever seen. So
that's outstanding, man. Yeah. He is such a virtuoso in animation and comics. And I mean, he would give me his sketchbook for years. And I'm like, oh, Sanford, the right project's going to happen. And everyone is just going to like, oh, holy fuck. This guy's been in front of us all this time. And especially the way his career started, having to do on-model animation tie-in books. And that was really like the meat of what he was getting. And finally he's like, no, I gotta be me, and it's like, yeah, man, you do. And you're amazing. So all three of them, David, Sanford, and Chuck. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a few artists that I'm really like rooting for them to dive into being a full creator, like writer, artist, the whole thing. David Marquez, Nick Darrington, I'm working on a creator run with David Marquez right now, and I'm hoping that the book after that is a book he writes and draws himself. I mean, you're sitting there going, man, you don't need me for this. Yeah.
That's pretty hilarious. Great. This is interesting. I really would be interested in your take on Wonder Woman. Any chance for that happening at all?
You will find out very shortly as Wonder Woman returns to the pages of Justice League in that Sanford annual. It is anchored around the return of Wonder Woman.
Awesome.
So you will find out. I will say I feel cheap and ineffective compared to the work Kelly Sue and Phil have done on Wonder Woman. If you haven't purchased Wonder Woman Historia yet, it has I feel everyone on here probably knows this already, but it has my a wholehearted highest recommendation. In fact, last week we teach college writing. This semester, Taki Soma is actually teaching with me as David is working on his book. And we do our second class is we have the students bring in their favorite and least favorite graphic novel, comic book reading experience. It can be any format, any book, any author, anything. And they have to come in, tell who they are, describe their experiences with these titles. I, of course, learned early on that I remove myself from the equation. They're not allowed to bring in my work for either tier. Like
you suck, and this is why.
Yeah, I'm going to bring Twitter right to your world. Like I'm going to both of those instincts. I tell them, I go both of these instincts to kiss my ass or get real with me are terrible, and I'm going to relieve you of those instincts. And in a classroom situation, and so they bring in their favorite, least favorite. It's my favorite class because it's all anecdotal, but it always reveals like stuff about how people are seeing stuff that's different from what I think. And like and I won't say what book it is, I'll tell you off the air, but there was one book that 10 years ago, almost half the class brought in as their favorite book. And to the point where I went, Jesus Christ, wow, this book has made an impression. This semester, they all brought it in to different people as their least favorite book. Has not aged.
Oh, wow.
I was shocked. I can't wait to tell you.
Wow. And I assumed you're going to say Historia.
No.
Not as a bad one.
No,
what
I was going to tell you is that I always report to Matt and Kelly that they love this class too. Like, who did well, who got beaten, like what are people thinking? And I didn't have the guts to tell Kelly Sue that I picked Historia as my favorite. She even asked me and I dodged the question because I was like it is the best comic book I've read in quite a few years. And I also had that genuine experience of she's been showing it to us the entire time. This, book's beautiful, right? And anytime we get a beautiful spread, we all share it with each other. Everyone does all the time.
Yeah.
Like I wake up to like any day, there's like 8 spreads from different comics, right? And it's delightful. It's inspiring. We all love it. And so I have seen Historia in pieces for years. She's been working on it since literally the day I walked in the door at DC. And so, but then when it all got put together, that's when holy shit. It just really floored me. It really did. And I know what she's capable of. I've literally written with her. We've co-written stuff together.
Yeah.
And just to see her blow the roof off of thing and to see Phil completely blow the roof off and then do it in concert. It's just such amazing. I was literally reflecting. I know she's my friend and I sometimes we reflect how like in the comics world, like you needed 1985 for Dark Knight to be Dark Knight and Watchmen to be Watchmen. Like it was a time and place. And then actually since then, like in this time, craft wise, there's been just as good books have come out since, but they weren't in that time and place, right? It feels like Wonder Woman Historia is a time and place book. Like it's that good. It's a legendary take on the character that will, I think, last forever and ever. And I'm just so happy to be buying books when it happened.
You beat me to it. I was going to compare it to Dark Knight because you're right. I mean, because it had that same 1985-86 feeling of wow, look at this. This is amazing. And from day one, and they were on promoting it and sent me an advanced copy.
I listened.
Oh, there you go. And I'm like, this is Wonder Woman's World of Krypton, which is great. She's deserved it for so long. And you're absolutely right. And the other great thing, and I'll say this because people might be waiting, the word balloon audience, they're like, oh, we got to come back on and do a kind of page by page breakdown. And Kel emails me today saying, hey, when are we doing this? And I'm like, hey, I've been waiting for you. It's totally fine. I mean, I figured we'd maybe do it before the end of the year. But they're like, no, let's do it. So in a couple of weeks, we've nailed down the day. We haven't nailed down the time, but yeah, it's coming back. So no, and man, now poor Gene Ha had tough act to follow after what
have they announced who's doing the third one? Is that public?
Yeah, it's Nicola. Nicola's doing the third.
So this morning, Kelly sends over a handful of Nicola, who I'm a huge fan of. Right,
she's the best.
The best. And so she sends her a handful of Nicola's work, and oh my god, because now Phil's just you got to deliver. Yeah, exactly. And so
everyone's gonna outdo the last guy or woman.
I've been in that situation too, and you feel a little manipulative. Like you didn't do it to be manipulative, but then you realize this is manipulative because everyone's trying to outdo each other, and you just sit back and you're just.
Phil dropped the mic. It's like top that fuckers, absolutely.
And knowing honestly, the reader wins. Like you've now created a souffle where the reader's going to win, and what a great experience that is. And it's all good natured. It's not aggressive competition. It's this is where we are. Well, I better get to work. Shit. Yeah, it's that kind of thing. Yeah.
And I hope to God that they are able to tell their 9-chapter story, because I know right now the only thing that's guaranteed is 3. And that's truly why I'm happy to pile on with you and tell people, if you haven't gotten it, please get it, because it's an amazing, epic story. And again, like you said, it's been rattling in Kel's brain for years, and the artists are really coming to play. And it's great. And Wonder Woman deserves that level of a book. And I think
absolutely,
it's been hit and miss for her entire existence in terms of various runs, and not to denigrate
just like
anybody. Yes, just like any character. You're right. But I mean, this has been a kind of a piece of the puzzle that really was missing for a long time. And I just love the idea that we're getting this World of Krypton look at the Amazons.
Yes. So pick it up. And but my point is with the Nicholas Scott stuff is that I looked at this beautiful artwork, and but now I go, and I don't even know how brilliant this is yet. Like, I don't even know how this will feel all
random.
Together.
Yeah, it's random art right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. Yeah. So
that's awesome. Here, Tell 'em 29 says, when will Murder Incorporated versus the Vatican come out for Jinxworld? And I wanted to know any sort of update for scheduling for the existing books.
So here's what I've done is I've slowed down not production. We're making a lot of stuff behind the scenes, but I've slowed down the release schedule a little bit. It's only because, again, high class problem, if there ever was one. I sometimes compete with myself in the marketplace, and I don't always intend to. And I'm talking about, like, there's Spider-Verse stuff out there, like Marvel today just put out 2 giant omnibuses of Ultimate Spider-Man. Like, there's material out there all the time, so I want to make sure I don't over saturate in certain areas.
Sure.
Murder Incorporated is one of my favorite things I've ever done in my life. I know we're not supposed to say that, but I just listened to 8 hours of Quentin Tarantino on podcast, flat out calling himself a genius. So I'm just going to tell you, I'm really fond of this book, and I'm really fond of how I feel when I make it. And I feel it's me and Mike's best work together. So, but it is, of all the Jinxworld books, it sells the least amount. I think for a couple of reasons. And by the way, we put out a Powers graphic novel that sold out very, very well. So it's not me and Mike. It was a title that had the words United States, which hasn't been very popular lately, and then it has murder in it, and then it has incorporation. So those are 3 things that people just don't genuinely care for on a base level sometimes. So, and I put them all together in a title. So what we're going to do is we're rebranding the whole franchise. It's going to come out as Murder Inc. novels. They're called Murder Inc. And the first one is going to be Murder Inc., a Valentine's Trust. And the second one is about, they're all going to have like surnames. And the third one is going to be called Murder Inc. It's not going to be called the Vatican. I've taken the Vatican versus the Vatican out of it. It is, all the material is there, and it's about the new pope of this world and their relationship to organized crime. But I just had this feeling, like, as a Jewish man, if someone in comics who wasn't Jewish wrote a comic about a United States Murder Inc. versus the Temple, I'd be like, "Excuse me, what what's going on?" Like so I reflected, internalized, and I had an opportunity here and said, "Oh, we're not going to call it versus the Vatican," and also they don't. It's not versus the Vatican. There's no verses. It's very cerebral verses. So yeah. So the book is coming out. It's beautiful. I'm immensely proud of it, and I will tell you that of all the things that we have out in the world, it's the one I hope, and by saying this out loud, it's almost guaranteeing that it'll never happen, but I hope it's the one that finds its way onto a screen sometime.
Interesting.
And by saying that, I have killed it forever. It is now, but it is the one that I've like told the people that I work with. This one, I think this one's got legs. I do. I love writing it. I love how it feels. So check it out if you want to see me at my feeling at my most whole. I think that's United States of Murder.
Tell him saying, what if you were to do Murder Inc. as an omnibus, connecting all three, arcs?
We might one day. We're just putting the finishing touches on the 3 arcs of Scarlet being put together as a completed collection for Dark Horse, and it's, by the way, has every single extra Alex and I had in our computers. It is, we love this book so much, and we're so happy we got to finish it, that we're and we're so happy we're making a Dark Horse collection out of it. That I love DC collections and I love Dark Horse collections. Those are my favorite collection publishers, and to be having material come out through them is great. Yeah.
That's cool. I would imagine you're holding off volume 2 of Cover for the cartoon.
That is when David is drawing it, and when he's ready, we'll put it out. I have written and he is drawing. So, but it's slow going because he's working on the show and the covers for stuff at the same time. But we'll absolutely do. So here's what's here. So for those who want to know what's coming, we're doing Joy. And then right after Joy, we're doing the next volume of Pearl, which is myself and Michael Gatiss. And it's our Yakuza epic, romantic Yakuza epic. I am very happy to report that thanks to your excellent support and feedback from the first 2 volumes, the 3rd volume is by far the most beautiful thing Michael Gatiss has ever drawn. Most beautiful. He loves this book. I even had to go, what's going on? Like it's next level on every turn, and I'm so happy to be part of him this next phase of his. We've literally been working together since college, and I find myself stunned by what he's accomplished here. So we're doing that, and so that'll be the next Dark Horse book, and then following that will be another new project that I'm doing with Jacob Edgar. That'll be next, and then it'll be the Alex Maleev book, and then Murder Inc., and then on and on and on. We continue, but in the meantime, we have 9 collections of the classic material coming out over the calendar year. We have new Scarlet, we have the new Pearl, we have a new collection of the brand new Powers graphic novel that sold out of DC. So we'll have a bunch of stuff coming out, and we haven't even started talking about Fortune and Glory and the textbook and the other stuff.
Volume 2.
I'm working on it. I was typing it this week.
That's excellent.
I'm gonna have Fraction read it this weekend to see if he thinks I'm insane. That's it.
And tell people about the new textbook that is on the way as well.
Well, it's called Creativity. It's called Creation. Sorry, it's called Creation, and it is literally all about creating things. It is. I will take you through. It's half a textbook and half almost like a confessional. I'm going to take you through things that I created and how they all came together, and then I'm going to take you through things that did not come together at all, or things that you saw publicly not come together at all. I'm gonna celebrate the successes and failures that comes with any kind of creation, because those anecdotes are really what helps other people get over their fears of quote unquote failure, even though it isn't failure. If you made it, it's not a failure. So we're gonna dive in. I've been writing it all year.
That's great to hear, man. No, excellent.
Yeah, and the idea was to like have a companion piece to Words for Pictures, but without repeating or like, well, why didn't you tell me this the first time? So this is like I have that sometimes with it wasn't. I think Robert McKee. Yeah, Robert McKee has a book called Dialogue, and I'm like, well, why didn't you put this in story? Like anyway. So to have it be a completely different thing that we're talking about is a good way to do a textbook. And okay. I'm very and by the way, while you're waiting for mine, hold on, it's right here.
Oh yeah, grab it.
Oh, I got some stuff here.
No problem.
I tweeted this last night. I'm on quite a Linda Berry Linda Berry kick. Linda Berry is a cartoonist, and she's also a teacher and educator. She has something called Making Comics, which is her textbook, and this is literally the syllabus from her class, which makes my syllabus look like a 3-page typed piece of nonsense. But hers is it's just how to make stuff and why you make stuff and how everyone's a good artist. And there's no such thing as a bad artist. And I'm just really into her stuff and her energy.
That's awesome.
And I recommend anyone who like Works of Pictures, I think would really dig in on that stuff. So
excellent. All right. Wrapping up.
Okay.
TV shows that you're loving. I'm sure. I don't know how much we talked about it in our last few conversations, but Only Murders in the Building was
my God. Yeah, that was my number one on my No Life. I'm so grateful for that show's existence. I'm a huge Steve Martin fan, but Steve Martin, the writer, like I love Steve Martin's writing. Yes. Like I love his performing. I love his energy, but boy, every 10 years he writes something that changes my life that like I can't let go of. And he did it again. I can't believe at this stage in his life, he did it again. And also wrote something for his friend that found his friend's perfect, beautiful energy. Like no one's nailed the magic of Martin Short's and Saturday Night Live like this, right? Yeah. This is what he can do. So everything about it, and just that there's that one scene where Martin Short and Nathan Lane are going at each other, and they never do the thing you think they would do in any other scenario, which is go, "Hey, lady," at each other. They those two. That's what they. They did it off camera. They were going nuts. But boy, oh boy, I just loved it. And I'm so glad there's a second season, and people are like getting it. It's great.
And I was going to say too, my favorite scene. And it's just this little bit of physical business. But when they're when Short and Selena Gomez are at the wake, and Short just falls out of his chair out of nowhere. Yeah. And it's just that kind of stupid shit that it's like, that's Martin Short.
You can't tell if that was an improv because of her reaction was so genuine. Oh my God, an old man just fell off a chair. Like that's what her face said. Oh my God.
And also just, honestly, and I guess here's my old man on my porch yelling at clouds, but I'm like, all right, Selena Gomez, whatever. And she was amazing. And to keep up with those two creative geniuses, it's like, way to go, kid. That's beautiful. I'm very impressed.
This is the benefit of having, and sometimes the torture of having all the kids that I have, is that I am very familiar with Selena Gomez's milieu, both as a musician, as an ex-Bieber, and as the star of Wizards of Waverly Place. And what's when you watch iCarly or Wizards or Hannah Montana, you do get like moments where you go, oh, they're really good. That's a very talented young person. They're not being propped up by a machine. They have an enormous amount of talent. So now that they've all grown up, like watching like Miley Cyrus, I mean, she really killed on New Year's. I mean, it was an amazing performance. You watch her and her sister do Jolene. It's really something. Like I really had a moment where like, am I a fan of hers? Like I had to question myself. So it's fun to watch them grow up and find their adultness. But yeah, she always had it. She always did.
Did you watch Hacks from HBO?
I did. I really liked it. I was
Me
just
too.
saying, I'm fascinated by how much of Joan Rivers' life is being mined for multiple TV shows and projects. But like, and I get it, but like George Carlin's isn't, right? Isn't that interesting? Like Richard
Well,
Pryor's isn't. It's
isn't it
just
harder?
her.
Isn't it harder to nail Carlin than it is Rivers? And I don't mean to mitigate her
Yeah.
work and her brilliance, but she really was kind of more straightforward. And by the way, Jean Smart, good Lord,
Oh,
every
yeah.
time she does something different, I mean, you could just so easily dismiss her, and it's like, then you're not paying attention because she's
No. She was
incredible.
amazing in Watchmen. Amazing
But
in
I mean,
Watchmen.
and just like you, I'm a massive Carlin fan. I had his daughter Kelly on and got to talk to her about her father and the genius behind all of his stuff. But I think that's kind of tough. Pryor, I agree with you, and really,
There's a lot of comedians that like kind of falling by the like Robert Klein. Like they were huge at a moment, but you don't hear much about them. But it's just interesting that that Joan Rivers is so inspiring to so many, and there is because I've read all the books and stuff. There's some details in Hacks and in Miss Maisel that are just flat out Joan Rivers, like they're actionable. Like I don't know where the legalities are of this.
Well,
It's
again,
weird.
I think as long I don't know. I guess that's up to Melissa if she wants to do it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's my
yeah.
that's my
So
Joan Rivers.
but I'm such a comedy nerd. I just love shows about the process, and for people who don't know, I figured out like me and Matt are huge comedy nerds. Like we talk about it a lot, and it really it comes down to we realize that the process is very similar to ours. The immediacy of the content that gets put out, the inspiration where it comes from, the the audience interaction. There's a lot of similarities between us, and I think that's why we get so hyperly like into it. Like I'm so into how they make SNL because it's very similar to how we make comics. The train's leaving the station on Saturday, whether you're on it or not, and that's what comics are.
You're absolutely right about that.
Yeah.
It's funny. I got to talk at the end of the year to Al Madrigal, the comedian,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he's doing that new book with AWA and Axel and everything. And and it's funny. He had such a great time and was very sweet about it. I kind of want to have him back to talk comedy and stuff.
Oh, you should. I hear it's a really interesting voice. He was on Daily Show for a long time.
Right, exactly. And there's a great. I don't think I told you. There's a great Mr. Kelly's documentary about that nightclub in Chicago where tons of comedy albums were recorded. Bob Newhart's first albums, Freddie Prinze's only album from the 70s.
What is this? What is this?
It's called Live at Mr. Kelly's. And it's not
Oh.
streaming anywhere, but you can rent it on Amazon. And I'm chasing the guys who parents were the Mr. Kelly's club owners, and would love to hear about this. It's a really famous nightclub in Chicago that opened post-war, made it till the late 70s, and like I said, it was a jazz place and a comedy place, and so much of the sea change of comedy from Take My Wife Please to the Mort Sauls and the Lenny Bruces and Carlins and people like that, they all played Mr. Kelly's. And it's great. Actually, it opens with Barbara Streisand, who her first out of New York gig was Mr. Kelly's. And one of the covers of her early albums where she's staring out at the water and you think it might be the ocean or whatever. No, it's actually Lake Michigan, and she's at our Oak Street Beach, which is fantastic. But yeah, it starts with her telling the story and playing at Mr. Kelly's. So no, it's amazing. And also another great comedy guy in the background, Dan Pasternak. He released a 3 vinyl volume set of Jonathan Winters material.
Oh, really?
And it's great. It's amazing. And he'll be coming up in the weeks ahead on Word Balloon as well, because like you, I'm a massive comedy nerd.
Yeah, I went through a big Jonathan Winters jag in college. It was like I remember even thinking, this is getting weird. You got to take a break. You can only hear so many voices. Yeah. The one I'm hoping someone can hit me with it on the Twitter, but the one movie that Edgar Wright and Tarantino were talking about that they had discovered was called The Ghost of Peter Sellers. And it's a pretty recent documentary by Peter Medak about a pirate movie he was making with Peter Sellers that Peter Sellers sabotaged and blew.
Wow.
And there's a trailer for it on YouTube. And then because they were talking and the thing about how a lot of these movies are on YouTube, I saw, the movie's on YouTube. The Ghost of Peter Sellers on YouTube. So I saved it, and then I went to watch it last night, and it wasn't the movie. It was just some guy literally talking about Peter Sellers at a wall for 2 hours. But I'm dying to see this movie, and I got to find it.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, like when you see the trailer, like, I got to see this.
Did you finish Get Back, the Beatles?
I never even started it. Haven't even started it. I know I'm saving it. You know what? I was in the middle of a big project and and finishing up some other stream. And then I had that weird thing where I'm sure some of you felt this. There was a couple days where Twitter was, at least my Twitter was, a giant midlife crisis revolving around the Beatles documentary. Like everybody was having some kind of come to Jesus moment about the documentary, and it was a lot of guys my age just kind of losing themselves. And I go, I'm not going to be part of this wave. I'm going to take my own wave. I'll take a step back. And also, I had, I told you last time we talked, Summer of Soul was probably my movie of the year. The Questlove music documentary, and yes. I'm still ill from that. So I kind of I don't need Get Back yet. I know it's going to be there for me. Like I'm still enjoying Summer of Soul.
I don't blame it at all.
So I want to enjoy it and then move on to the other one. So
Get Back for me, and I think you might have the same reaction. It reminds me of the Judd Apatow, Gary Shandling documentary in that we are looking over the shoulders of the Beatles as they're making their music.
And I just can't believe, and you and I know this, of all the Beatles projects that come out over the years. Remember, they're remaking. Jeff Lynne's remaking music that no one wanted released. Like all the stuff that they were doing, that this footage had never been seen. Like that wasn't part of that big DVD box set 20 years ago. That's amazing.
Well, and again, it's and I've heard Peter Jackson explain in interviews that Michael Hogg, and I forget his middle name, and I don't mean to dismiss him, but that movie came out after, the Hogster, the former, it might be Orson Welles' kid, maybe not, who knows, which I love. That's another facet that's great. But that I saw Let It Be when I was a kid in the 80s. And and I'll even confess to downloading a pirated copy in the 90s. And what's great is Let It Be came out after the Beatles broke up. So everyone feels like maybe Hogg geared his film with all the negative stuff, seeing the breakup had already happened. Whereas Peter reveals in this movie, no, they were still happy. Yeah, they had moments, but everybody has moments. And that's fine. And truly, mentioning Peter Sellers made me think of it because that's a great scene, and that's all I'm going to say is.
Oh no, I can't wait! Can't wait.
Yeah, and no, it's and of course, his Radium says it also looks like the footage was shot last week. Yeah, the way they were able to clean it up. Well, the original was shot on 16 millimeter, and they blew it up for 35 for the film, so it's really grainy looking, and certainly by today's modern standards. And that's amazing. But also, I've told Brian about a secret project that I'm working on, and this was amazing to me. The audio from the Beatles sessions, that stuff had been out there as bootlegs, and it all had them tuning up their instruments and other people talking over them. And Peter Jackson found this AI that could isolate the Beatles' voices and cut out everything else. And on my project, I was able to find a similar AI on this archival audio that I have, and it totally cleaned it up, and now it just sounds like a great telephone interview. So I'm very, very excited. And it literally, as I was trying to figure out how to fix this audio, it's like, wait a minute, maybe we could do what the Beatles did. We don't need as much trickery or filters to get down to what we need. And that was so exciting. And that's another reason why I'm still buzzing about Get Back and also how it dovetails into my project. So there you go.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. This is good. This is a good one.
All right, a couple quick questions. Bendis,
Sure.
if you were to do Powers on TV over again, what would you change? Animated, different structure, increased budget, more stylized. Powers is my favorite non-Big Two comic of all time.
I appreciate that, and I hope you got a chance to check out the best ever graphic novel that we put out this year. It was right in the middle of pandemic, so not everyone knew it came out and sold out, but it'll be coming out again through Dark Horse. Thank you. I have a fitful relationship with the Powers TV show. I had a genuinely great experience personally the entire time. I met tons of people that were still friends, and I learned a lot, and I got to experience a lot of things I never thought I experienced before. So it doesn't make me want to like change anything. I wish we had started on an actual network. Like if you remember, Powers was on a PlayStation platform. We actually did some pretty good numbers. Some out of just curiosity, like why is this a TV show on my PlayStation? But we like. I don't know, like it was weird to judge like what's success. I kept asking like, what does success mean in this space? Like I can't tell. And it happens in comics too. It's very hard to tell sometimes. Like, what are you expecting? And so, but like we were doing around the same businesses like Mr. Robot was like, but we were just doing it on a PlayStation. So it doesn't count, I guess, right? So I don't know. I don't know. But it was what was offered to us, and it was a grand opportunity. But what we were promised was that they were going to build a network around us. Like we were the first story of a bunch of comics. Some comics were going to be adapted. Some other things were coming that shows that ended up in other places. But there was from my perspective, there was two camps in the PlayStation company. One was very into this, let's kick Apple's ass with new content. Let's beat them before they get to it. And then there was another group at PlayStation that just wanted to do games and wanted to keep it pure. And this is a gaming scenario. So we were always wrestling between those groups. One group had completely had our back, and one group was completely disgusted by our presence being there. Nothing personal. It's not a game. Get the fuck out. So that offered us but in my heart, I trusted that we were getting a network, but it just never happened. But even at the end of the second season, like we were actually told third season's a yes. Like our numbers were going up, and the third season's a yes. And we were actually offered to start working on a virtual reality component, because you remember the VR for the PlayStation 4 was a big deal. And they said, we would like you to create a virtual reality retro girl scenario. We're going to teach people how to fly in the PlayStation using Powers.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, and as I was just describing, I'm always hungry for new experiences and new things. Like, I don't know how to do that. How do you do that? Like, and so we were all good to go. And then behind the scenes, PlayStation had to literally change their entire business model.
Yeah.
And never went back. I'm like I said, if they announce a new like when they canceled everything, I said in 3 months they announced a new TV show, then I'm going to be pissed. But they never did. They never. Years later, even with the new PlayStation,
no, they pulled back.
They never did it. So I do think they should have. I think that
I agree with you. I think history has shown that they should have done it, because look at all the other streamers that popped up in the wake of them pulling back. So absolutely,
Sony doesn't have a streaming service. Like they're missing. They're missing one. They are at the not to get too in the weeds on the business, but they're at the behest of other productions. They have to sell their stuff to Apple, to Netflix to get that going. And now and that gets dicier and dicier as time goes on, because does Netflix need Sony to get stuff going?
Right.
So that's the thing. So if they would have stuck to their guns and made the Sony stream or whatever, and
Right.
and then loaded it up with Breaking Bad news shit and all that, it
Yeah.
would have been pretty cool.
Plus their whole library. Yeah, their whole library of Columbia films, etc. Absolutely.
Yep. A
No, you're right.
Spider-Man show. Yeah, it could
Yes.
have been cool. So that's the road. That's the path that did not happen. Also, I would have, if I did it again, I would take a more active role, showrunner role right away. I took it on the second season, but I didn't on the first. Because I'm like, well, I'm not a showrunner and I don't want to insult everybody by pretending I am. And so I worked with some people, and that I'm happy I did it, but not in retrospect. And again, so we're giving the Sony goes to me, we're giving you a second season, but you need to be there, more you. And I went, oh, okay, I'm sorry, I thought I was being a good partner by letting everyone do their thing. That's my jam. Like, yeah, you got it, right? So, but so in the second season, as soon as I started working on the show with Remy Ubashan and everybody, I who created Falling Skies, I really enjoyed it and realized, the whole show would have been different if I would have started at this level. I was there for casting. I was, and all the actors that were cast were the people that I'd hoped were. We all did as a group, and I didn't have final say, but it was literally everyone I'd hoped for was cast. So we had all the pieces we needed to do what we needed to do. So again, long answer. I don't think about it much because to me it was just a good experience that I got to share with my buddy Mike, and it's out there on Amazon Prime. You can watch them anytime you want. I recommend the second season. Not saying you have to skip the first season, but there's a seismic change in style between the first and second season that I think. And second season is Who Kills Retro Girl. It really starts where the book starts. So if you're a fan of the book, I think you'd dig it. And there's a lot of really, really good actors on that show.
Yeah, man. Madsen was great, and Izzard was great in the first season, and
Eddie Izzard, Michelle
number
Ford.
6 from Galactica.
Trisha
Helfer. Thank you.
And behind the scenes, the nicest person. If anyone wants,
that's adorable. That's great to hear.
Cooler.
And truly
has done me solids behind the scenes for no reason at all. Just
and cool. Zora was so well cast, and she was great. And became something. That's another thing too. When you cast young actors, and Powers was the thing they did before the thing that made them famous, is pretty cool. So Susan Hayward.
Yeah. Susan went right from us to Harry Potter, man. I took that as I love Susan so much.
No, I'm with you. Radium, interesting observation. There's a lot of sliding door moments in your career. Yes, let's get into the oeuvre of Gwyneth Paltrow, please.
Yes, but by the way, there are in everyone's career. Everyone has them. It just because writers tend to look at them more. Writers tend to like. That's our job for our characters, and then you're one of your characters, and then you look at it and wonder. I can honestly say though, I haven't looked at many of the sliding doors and go, God damn, I fucked that up. Oh no, there's things I would do differently, but I haven't. There's no road I took where I went, oh boy, because even the things that fucked up, boy, they were entertaining while they were happening. Like that, like may you live a life that when something flies off the rails, it's delightful. You just can't help but giggle. Like, wow, this is just not going where we thought it was. And so I don't give it too much. And so many of my heroes have taught me, hug those failures, hug them big, hug them deep. And you will learn something from them, and you will celebrate them, and so like when Cover came around and they said, "Do you want to do it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll do." Like it's that I realized, yeah, it should be me. That it's literally me writing about me and David. I'm going to tell someone else how to do it. No, I'll do it, and I'll do it myself. Absolutely,
that's great, man. Excited for that.
So there's the lesson learned.
Excellent, man. All right, we can wrap up. Good Lord.
All right.
You've been lovely. 3 hours. We haven't beaten Lawrence of Arabia's or Quentin Tarantino's running time, but
Well, I do want to do these more frequently, like we used to.
oh
I
my
know I've
man,
said that over the whole pandemic, but
great.
every time we do it, I feel good afterwards, and reminded like that's why people liked us doing this. It's like this feels good and it's fun, and I appreciate it. And I know you do it all day. This is your everyday. I'm just one of 100.
Oh, shut up,
guys that parade through
shut
this.
up. No,
So
and
it
truly,
used to be
Brian,
just me and you, and back then it was something special. Do you remember?
no. Honestly, I do appreciate how much the Word Balloon audience appreciates our dynamic. Your friendship, as you know, means a lot to me. And then you guys, you're both, and Elisa as well. I mean, you guys are lovely people, and I'm glad you're part of my life. I love this, and I'm always happy to see you. As I always say, I wish we all lived on the same street because maybe we'd see each other more. But things are good, and if you don't mind, hang out because I want to tell you.
I want to talk to you a little bit afterwards. Yeah,
and also I want to hear the stuff we couldn't talk about on
we may have to edit out the Fantastic Four bit that I said.
So tomorrow on Word Balloon, I'm talking to Scott Shaw, the great man behind
exclamation mark. Yep, I am a big fan of Scott Shaw. Tell him that I said that I always admired his work, and that I was at some of his greatest Eisner Award presentations. I was at some of his classic ones. I really felt I was there for something. So
that's excellent, man.
Yeah. Hey, before we hang up, everyone who's online, there's some people online that I see on Twitter often, and I just really want to thank you for making my life so beautiful, and for making the pandemic easy to get through. I know we're helping each other through this, but I don't think you can often know how much you help us. Like being alone in a room with your work going, I hope someone gives a shit, is where we all live. And then you come on here and say nice things, and go out of your way to stop by my Twitter feed to tell me what you're binging during the pandemic, which is kicked up again, by the way. It's really sweet. My whole week has been people like, I just read every issue of Daredevil, and sharing this genuine good thought. I'm sorry everyone's locked down again, but I'm glad everyone's locked down with their stories. So, and to answer the last question, why Rooster Teeth? We were introduced to each other, and we really, really liked each other. And they do very excellent animation work. I don't know. I don't think there's Rooster Teeth that does like a lot of online content, but they're also major animation producers. They do like Transformers and blah, blah, blah. They like do some big stuff. So it's more in the line of that than it is the content. So, but they're great. We're having a blast, Rooster Teeth. Just not one day that hasn't been great.
You want to take this one? 12 years after Kirkman's green screen banjo manifesto led call to arms for creator owned. How do you feel about it now?
Exactly the same. And by the way, that call to arms was followed by me and him debating it on stage. I believe he may have picked me
Baltimore.
Up. Well, what's great is that since we talked, the business has changed. That's kind of amazing. Like in our lifetime, the business has changed, looks like forever. So there's actually, like I think we talked about earlier, like I talk about this in class a lot too, because there's tiers of business in the comic business now. There used to be mainstream and independent.
Yep.
Now there's Marvel and DC, creator owned.
Yeah.
And the Raina Tellinger Captain Underpants YA tier, which is bigger than all the other two put together. And in each one of those tiers, amazing work can be done, an amazing career can happen, and they could be completely different than the other person's career and be equally successful. At this very moment, I'm actually in all three places, which is amazing to me. And I'm experiencing all three of them for myself. And I just want to know what it feels like, but also because that's part of, like, it's new and I want to experience it. But I'm amazed by that. So yeah, so that's where I am right now. And so in that, so how do I feel about it? I feel that it's evolved to a place where the debate we had is moot, because what has happened in comics is this, and this we didn't see coming, but boy, oh boy, am I happy to be part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get it,
make
buddy.
make rarefied air. It is rare. I know I got goofed on saying that people who make comics live in it's rarefied air that you get to make a story and publish it and experience that. I still do. I think it's a privilege. And if you don't think it's a privilege, I think you're forgetting something important. So I'm going to stay with that. But I got goofed on a little for saying this is to have a hit TV show based on your hit comic is rarefied air. And to start lecturing people from the place that you're living with your hit TV show is you should be self-aware. And that's the part that I got dinged on that I think that it's great where Robert was coming from, but that's not the world that most people live in or will ever live in. So there you go. Make stuff. If anything I'm saying inspires you to go, I would like to feel some of this, make stuff. It's hard. I sweat through all of it. I'm frustrated that at this stage in my career, it's still fucking hard. Like I thought, oh, it'll ease up eventually. No, it gets harder. But it's a good hard. Like it's a puzzle that I'll find that missing piece. I'll find it. But my whole jam is hoping that by talking about this and showing you the results of some of it, that you'll want to go do it too. Whether it's music or movies or just writing or comics, whatever it is, like go make something. We're going to be stuck home for the next few weeks. It's been made pretty clear to me by some people who know it's going to be a few weeks at least of a lockdown again. Go try something you haven't tried before. I'm literally back drawing again. Like I have to retrain myself to draw. It's so scary, right? So yeah. I literally have talking about the cheating of my life. I literally have all the artists I work with reteaching me how to draw. Like I've like Nick Darrington, where do I get my paper? Like I'm using all of these artists for the worst, most selfish purpose. So
why not?
Right.
I don't blame you at all.
You've been trying to go to sleep. I just remembered it's
no.
5 o'clock in the morning there.
Not true, sir. I'm going to be up for at least another hour taking care of stuff and everything.
Okay.
It's totally fine. And like I said, we'll talk a little bit off the air.
But listen, I deeply thank you all for just stopping in with us and signing on to the newsletter and all that. And we have a lot of cool stuff coming this year and coming from a really good place. And I really appreciate all of you. So thank you.
That's beautiful. Everybody, thanks for watching. As I always say, to wrap up everything,